morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 469 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network.
Crier Media.
I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. And today, my lovely, lovely, lovely kitties and cubbies, is Friday, September the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
And there, if I could do a Scream Queen scream, I'd put one here, but my voice is too low for that. So just imagine it in your ears. Okay, there you go.
I thought I had that on my sound pad board here somewhere,
that
but I don't.
Perfect.
I'll have to dig it up and I'll add it in for later. So.
Man. Big thank you goes to our founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Thank you so much for your support. Gonna have an interesting show for you today, kids. But Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
Mental health. That's the jury's out on that one, only because I am so physically tired and in so much physical pain. My back is killing me. Honestly, for a few minutes when I first woke up, I didn't know if I was going to be able to sit here and do this. I'm in that much pain. We went to City Folk last night to see Fred Eaglesmith, specifically to see Fred Eaglesmith and Greta Van Fleet. And Fred Eaglesmith was incredible.
Right.
And Greta Van Fleet knocked it right out of the park. They are as good live as they are in the studio. And not a lot of bands can say that, but
That's lovely.
Oh, they floored it. It was amazing. Everybody. What I loved was I look at all these, like we were way in the back. It was crowded. It was a complete sellout. And I look at the crowd up front and around me for that matter. And I'm like, so many young people, so many Gen Z people are discovering hardcore, real bluesy rock and roll for the first time and getting to see it live. It's like for this generation, they're getting to see Led Zeppelin for the first time.
Right.
That's basically what it is. I mean, and these kids are that good. They are Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, and Led Zeppelin 3. And when Robert Plant, the singer of Led Zeppelin, the lead singer, says they're Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, he's not joking. Okay. So when you get an endorsement from the man who was, the lead singer of that band,
yeah,
that's high praise indeed. And they knocked it out of the park. However, we had to leave. But they might have had 3 songs left in their set, and I was in so much physical pain last night. My back, my knees were just killing me to the point where I'm like, I looked at Bridget and I'm like, babe, we got to go. I can't do it any longer. Which is difficult for me because I'm one who never leaves a concert early, like ever. Stay
Mhm.
until the house lights come on and they tell you to leave. I'm
Right.
usually the last one out, and I couldn't
Right.
do it last night. I was in that much pain. So
Well, especially when you're in that situation, you have to like figure out how much gas do I have in the tank because I still need to get
I
home.
still need to get home. Yes, exactly. And I was in so much pain last night that when we left this morning, I woke up and I was talking to Bridget. I'm like, I remember leaving the concert venue. After that, I don't remember anything. She goes, really? I'm like, yeah, I was in so much pain. I'm like, how did we get home? She goes, we took a cab. I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, that's it. Every single resource you went meant to like just like if I just focus on managing this pain until I can get into a physical position where it is not there anymore, I will be okay. And there is nothing else in the universe but that. And do not try to distract me with anything because I need everything I got left for this.
Yeah.
I've been in that position.
That was me. That was me last night. Like I don't remember coming home. I don't. I have no recollection of coming home. I have no
Yep.
recollection of walking into the apartment. I have no recollection of sitting on the couch.
Yep.
I don't remember going to bed. I just woke up and I'm like, how did we get here? I don't remember that. That's how much pain I was in.
Yep.
So this morning I'm a little. I'm sure it's affecting my mental health. It probably is horribly, but right now I'm in. Like, could I have a new back, please?
Yeah. Me, it was, I typically don't have back issues, but I was in a weird, freaky kind of accident many years ago where my body, everything got twisted. So, I've been
Mm,
seeing chiropractors and physiotherapists and whatnot like this to try and to get back into realignment. And it's going very well. And as my body is coming back into alignment, I'm noticing literally just how twisted up and mangled I got.
well, I have
Because
scoliosis.
right. Um, and there are the very, very first time it hit because things were being worked on and unraveling and with no negative consequence, everything was always good. Oh, I just feel so much better than I did
Mhm.
before. And it just keeps going that way. But the first time where things start moving and then things get in a weird position,
Yes.
that just makes everything hurt.
Yes.
Right? And the world stops for a few days, right? Until your body like gets out of that position, like it
Mhm.
keeps on unraveling itself. That happened to me for the first time ever in my life on Canada Day.
Oh, wow.
Like this, we're
Yeah.
down and we're having a good time like this. And then I go and I step up on a curb, just
Yeah.
that transfer
It's
weight,
a
and
jar.
then right lower back
Mhm.
on the right side, just around the kidneys
That's
and
like
above the butt.
sciatic. That's the sciatic nerve,
The
I think.
sciatica, like right there. Well, I heard about sciatica. I mean, I was a dancer, I was a swimmer. I'd never
Welcome to the
felt
club.
that, right? Like this, and I'm sitting there, and it's like, holy crap! And it's like, and we, this was like just after like the Nuno Canada stuff,
Mhm.
right? So we were just going into the market. So we went home, and I laid flat until about 8 o'clock, and then we tried to go out for the fireworks,
No,
and
no,
it
no,
had
no, no, no.
rained. So when we're walking on the grass, like my foot is slipping. It's like I'm getting all these twinges, and then we're waiting for them to start, and then that's just like standing in one place, right? Which is the worst thing, right? Because you're like
Mhm.
always shifting. And I'm sitting there like this, and I am on the verge of tears with about like 5 minutes left on the fireworks like this, and we see it like this, and everybody's applauding and cheering, and it's like, and everybody that I'm with is like still looking up at the sky, like this, and it's like,
Having a good
okay,
time
the
and
firefighters, I'm
yeah.
pulling on Alex's sleeve. It's like, we really got to go, or you're going to have to carry me.
I just realized something. I just realized something a second ago, like literally a split second ago. We're Waldorf and
Yeah.
we're two old men complaining about how much everything hurts. Ah, shit, I never thought I'd be that guy, and yet here I am. I'm that guy. We're two old men complaining about all of our aches and pains. And what was it, the cartoon I saw about 2 years ago where the guy says, "Hey, doctor, my finger hurts. I stubbed it the other day, and it won't stop hurting." He goes, "Yeah, that happens." He goes, What do you mean that happens?" He goes, "Yeah, that happens." "So it's just gonna hurt forever?" "Yes." "Like, forever? I'm only 35. Why do you think old people are so grumpy?" Because you're
Statler
in
and
pain
Waldorf.
all the time. Yeah, Waldorf
Uh,
and Statler. Yeah.
well,
Statler and Waldorf. Yeah.
you
Thank
know
you.
what I told you a few weeks ago about our sponsor Tina saying that she likes to watch us in double speed because we look animated. She's like,
Yes.
it was Statler and Waldorf. She was
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my god. Okay. Let's wow. Okay, that was fun. But we do have we do have some news as well. Uh Mr.
I
Grizzly,
have something that just came across my feed that you might not be aware of, sir.
okay, but before we do something new, because the title of the
Oh
show.
yeah. We can get
Yes.
into that. Yeah.
So I
I'll keep this off to the side for the time being. This is big news, though. Big
yes.
news in labor. It's a
Yes.
labor thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, you put it in the title. I don't know
I
if you
didn't
want to
know about
introduce it.
this. I
Oh,
didn't. No,
I,
I did
I
not know about this. It
yeah,
was.
I did, and I wanted to bring it yesterday, but like I said, then everything was telling me no.
Yeah.
You-
Cassie brought this to my attention this
yes,
morning, and thank you, Cassie, because this was a complete shock to me. I did not know about this. Why I didn't know about this is like I don't know. Should have been a headline. Why wasn't it across my feed? Why wasn't this national news? I'm sure it might have scraped the headlines, possibly, but it's. Uh, I'm shocked by this though, because it was not. This CBC News story was posted last Friday, and
yeah,
I'm only learning about it today.
yeah, yeah. I had heard about it on Friday, um, and yeah, there's it's a big loss. It's a big loss.
Huge,
Let's
like massive,
yeah.
massive loss,
Now,
and such a tragic turn of events on how she passed away. Like in front of a lot of people, this happened.
yeah,
She was only 63.
yeah.
That's young because it's not that far off for me.
Hmm.
I'm 56. That's 7 years away, right?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Grizzly, I sent you a link in
Yeah, I have it. I have it.
in our chat. Um, when stuff like this happens, we have CBC under all the sources that we trust, but I like to go to APTN first.
Oh, of course, for something like
Okay.
this, absolutely.
And they had a panel discussion. And for people who are listening, I mean, I'm guessing if you see the title of the show, you know who we're talking about, but we haven't actually said her name yet. So it's Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Cathy Merrick.
Passed away tragically
Just yeah,
on the steps of the legislature. Was it? Was it the legislature? Sorry if I got that wrong.
I believe so. I mean, it's the stuff of movies,
Yes, yes.
right?
Oh my goodness! This is just from Cassie. Winnipeg Free Press took heat as they posted a photo of her when she died in front of
Oh
the.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
No. She lied in state in the provincial legislature.
Only she was the first. Let me get this correct. I have the story here. I have the story here. I just want to get it correct. She was only the sixth person to lie in state in the Manitoba legislature and the first woman. The last was Elijah Harper. Wow.
Yeah. Before we show the discussion here on APTN, they mentioned it's mentioned here on CBC that she did lie in state and that there was a solemn procession led by a motorcade, followed closely by a handful of people on horses. Indigenous leaders and mourners made its way from the Manitoba legislature through downtown Winnipeg on Wednesday evening en route to a wake to honor Cathy Merrick, the late Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Earlier Wednesday, Merrick lay in state at the Manitoba legislature, the first time a woman has been given that honor and the first time it has happened since 2013. It says Merrick, 63, died suddenly on September 6th after collapsing outside the law courts building in Winnipeg while speaking to reporters. So not the legislature, but the law courts building. Well, wait a minute. Maybe the law courts.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, that might be different.
And I'm because I'm a pedantic language guy. Is it just me, or does the law courts building sound funny? Yet that's the official name. It doesn't sound correct to me. The law courts building. Well, okay, what?
Huh.
That is the
Yeah.
official name, but it sounds in my head, in my pedantic OCD ADHD head, it just doesn't sound right, even though that is the correct name.
Maybe they were saying it's like the building where the law is exercised, where there are many courts.
But it's called the law courts building officially. So it sounds off to me, but that's my brain. That's my problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it anybody else's, but
So she lied in state on Wednesday to give people in Winnipeg an opportunity to pay respects. A white casket bearing Merrick's body was carried out of the Manitoba Legislative Building by pallbearers from the RCMP and Winnipeg Police Service, led by singers carrying one of her headdresses. Casket was taken to hearse, which led a procession to the RBC Convention Centre, where a wake for Merrick was to be held on Wednesday night. The procession included a riderless horse adorned with a star blanket symbolizing a fallen leader. On Wednesday morning, singers and pallbearers from the RCMP and Winnipeg Police Service escorted the white casket up the steps of the Manitoba Legislature, where Merrick's body arrived to lie in state for the day. The song from the group of First Nations women, one of whom carried Merrick's headdress, echoed through the broad foyer and grand staircase of the building as they headed the procession. Immediately behind the casket walked Merrick's husband, Todd, and the couple's 3 children, along with other family members, a number of First Nation chiefs, and other dignitaries. It was a slow, sorrowful walk as the casket was taken to the chandelier room on the second floor for a sacred private ceremony. Public viewing was scheduled for noon until 5 p.m. And then the article goes on to say that there's been an outpouring of grief for Merrick, who was elected Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs in October 2022, becoming the first woman to lead the advocacy group in its nearly 35-year history. She was re-elected to the post in July 2024. Before that, she spent more than a decade as a band counselor at the Pickikamak Cree Nation at Cross Lake and became the community's chief in 2013, only the second woman to do so. A book of condolences for the public to sign had been placed at the base of the grand staircase in the Manitoba Legislative Building, and flags at the building have been lowered to half-mast. Merrick's death was also marked by vigil outside the Winnipeg courthouse on Tuesday night and a sunrise ceremony earlier Wednesday. Former Manitoba Premier Gary Doer, who showed up at the legislature on Wednesday to sign the book, said Merrick was a person of integrity and leadership. Quote, "She had it all, and she lived it all, and that's why there's so many people grieving her passing," he said. Pickikamak Chief David Monias called Wednesday's event at the legislature a big deal for not only his community, but for diplomacy between the province and First Nations. You don't say. I mean, I've never seen this in my life.
No, I know.
For a leader of the Indigenous community. And if we are talking government to government and nation to nation, then yes, these are the things that should happen.
Yeah.
Of course, it took a Premier Wap Canoe to do it.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It would have been nice had it come from another source first, had the precedent been set. But now that the precedent's been set, let's hope some people pick up on it.
Well, this is the thing. It's like it takes one person to do the first step. Right? The first person to do it changes things for everything thereafter. Yep. And this is that case.
I hope that's that case. It had better damn well be that case.
One would hope.
Seriously.
This comment from Cassie: she was instrumental in getting the parties together to begin the landfill search for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Yeah. Quote, "That's what Cathy was about. She was about unity. She was a big proponent for treaty rights and relationship building," he said, noting it was Premier Wap Canoe who approached Pickikamak's council to see if they would consider having Merrick lie in state. Quote, "That's something we hope to see more of, where we have better relations with our provinces, our counterparts. That's what she wanted to do, is bring everybody together. And even in death, she's bringing everybody together, setting aside our differences to celebrate a woman, a mom, a wife, and one of our own. It's a big honor for us." Yeah. Monias, who first nominated Merrick as a candidate for the AMC Grand Chiefs, said she held all of the qualities of a strong leader, She's always reached for a handshake or embrace, quote, to make sure people felt respected, he said. Quote, she was fair and honorable. That's the way our leadership has been in our community. We're taught that. Be hard on the issues, but soft on the people. When Merrick took on an issue with other governments, she was there to make sure it was a win-win situation, not one where anyone came up short, said Manias. Quote, to uplift our people to the same parity of services as everybody else.
What is it our friend says? Be hard on the problem, soft on the people.
Yep.
Murray, is it Murray? What? I'm sorry. Our buddy, lawyer who helped the precedent-setting case in Alberta.
Oh, Murray. Yeah, Murray Billett.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's the one from whom I learned that. I learned that lesson, 20-something years ago. When people turn around, like they say on the show, my God, Douglas is the person. I can't really remember who said it, but they said something like, I deliver the I'm not going to take your bullshit with the most compassion that they've ever seen.
Be hard on the problem and gentle on the people. And she said the same thing. It's like, it's so true. Attack the problem with all of your gusto. Be gentle on the people. Because oftentimes the people just don't have an understanding of what the problem is. So that, you get your hackles up, you get wound up, you get your emotions involved. And, bad things can result from that. So it's like, be hard on the problem and gentle on the people. And I mean, those are some of the best words I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. When Merrick took on an issue with other governments, she was there to make sure it was a win-win situation, not one where anyone came up short, said Manias. Quote, to uplift our people to the same parity of services as everybody else. Grand Chief Garrison Seti of Manitoba Kiwatanoi Okimakanak, the Northern Manitoba First Nations Advocacy Organization, said having Merrick Lion State at the legislature, quote, validates her as a leader. Quote, I think beyond being the Grand Chief and beyond being a leader, she was a woman that carried a lot of love and compassion, and she cared for everyone, he said. One of the things that I keep hearing is that she made you feel special whenever you were around her, and she made you feel like you were equal to her, regardless of if you were living on the street or in a high-profile position. Everybody was equal to her. Louise Menau came out of the legislature after viewing Merrick, then picked up a drum and sang. Quote, in my culture, it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of honor, she said, noting she immediately felt like crying when she saw Merrick's body. But then, quote, something came over me, and there was a calmness, she said. Quote, it just felt very humbling to be able to see her at rest. Menno said she came to know Merrick during various walks, gatherings, and protests led by the former Grand Chief. Menno said at one point she was about to refer to Merrick as a friend when the Grand Chief stopped her. Quote, she said, don't call me that. I'm your family now.
Wow.
The two were also together in Merrick's final moments outside the courthouse. Merrick had been speaking to the media about what she called, quote, a gross miscarriage of justice following the acquittal of a Manitoba corrections officer charged in the 2021 death of William Amo, a First Nations man who was an inmate at the Headingley Correctional Center. Menno said Amo was one of her best friends. Shortly after beginning to talk about another topic, Merrick collapsed. She literally died fighting.
Yeah. I need to understand something here, and I don't know if I ever will, but why is it, and I mean this with absolute sincerity, why is it always the folks who have been beat down and punched down and kicked the most who always stand up and fight for others with the most grace and courage? I mean, I cannot begin to understand what her life was like growing up. It would not have been easy, right? An Indigenous woman in Canada, not an easy life. Mm-hmm. And so much grace, courage, and gentle treatment. It makes me think of Nelson Mandela, a man who spent 27 years in prison and came out with no hatred. Mm-hmm. All he wanted to do was make things better for everyone. I'm like, it's always, every single time we have somebody like this, it's always somebody who has suffered at the hands of people who look like me the most, who come out with grace and compassion and understanding and wanting to bring people together.
There's power in grace. There's power in kindness.
Well,
it's just not the fastest route, and it's not the flashiest one, and it takes way more work, but there's power in it.
But not only that though, and something I've come to understand over the years is letting go of the anger and giving into the grace and the gratitude makes your life better.
Mhm.
And it makes it easier for you to go ahead and move forward if you just put that behind you. Let go of the anger, let go of all the, yes, I know I was wrong. Yes, yes. Let go of it. And when I speak of I was wrong, we've all been wrong at some point in time. And my trauma, my battle, my pain is different than yours, and nobody is greater than anybody else's when it comes to what we've each suffered individually. Your pain is your pain, period.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. I'm top of the white privilege pyramid, cis het white male. I get that. I'm at the top of the privilege.
But you're also human.
I'm also human, and my suffering is my suffering. My pain is my pain. But I've chosen to put that behind me and move forward. And this comment here from Kyle, Super Kyle, we have to spend our lives trying to get people on our side. Right?
Mhm.
And that's what it is. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
And if you're playing the long game, then, the number of times you lash out should probably not be very high. We're all human. We all lash out at some point. None of us are perfect. But, life is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I have the clip here if you want to show it.
Yeah. I'll just finish here on the article because
by all means.
it's way better than I thought it was going to be,
Mhm.
to be totally honest.
I'm sorry, but Sean, that's funny.
Oh, yeah. Maybe not yet. The timing on that one may not.
For those of you listening to the podcast, the audible only
timing
version
may not be good there.
Well, it's
I know. Okay.
It's just, from Sean Romanko. It's anyone else here in the damn family eating their dogs for breakfast, and a quizzical look, and then a lot of laughter afterwards because we're all making fun of Donald Trump.
Oh man,
Hey, we got to inject a little bit of humor into the day.
I know.
Right?
I always get a little. Mr. Grizzly knows that Mr. Grizzly likes to break the tension, and I always get a little concerned that when we're talking about a subject such as this, that if we slice in with some of that, it might seem a little disrespectful. But everything is well intentioned.
Well, and here's something you need to understand too, because I have Indigenous family, right? Family members,
and laughter is very important.
I mean, every single. I've been to a couple of powwows. I've been to weddings and so on and so forth. Gatherings. A lot of Indigenous folks, Indigenous weddings. Blah blah blah. I'm not trying to get too specific here, but the key aspect amongst when people are talking about some of the past sufferings, they're always injecting humor into it. To try and look, I suffered this, but oh, by the way, have you heard this joke? Right? And I'm being sarcastic in that sense, but there's always humor. And one of my favorite ones, and I do want to relate this one to you because it was really good. It was a number of years ago, I was at a wedding, and it was just a few blocks from here. And we saw the ceremony, and then we sat down for the reception. And you know how during the reception it can go on for quite some time while people get up and say speeches. And one of the elders was there, and he says, and he walked up and he slowly made his way to the microphone, and he had a drum with him, and he says, "I want to," he says, "thank you for everybody gathering here today. This is a beautiful ceremony." And he says, "I want to perform a song for you right now that my father taught me. It's an ancient song, and we don't know where it came from or how it began, but this is something that has been in our family for generations." And he holds up the drum, and he close to the mic, and he goes bang, and he goes, "Hey." Bangs the drum again. Hey. Bangs the drum a third time. Hey, good looking. What you got cooking? And brought the house down. Brought the house down. I thought I was going to piss myself. I was laughing so hard. And everybody was like, okay, did not see that one coming. Like it was a shot across the bow, right? And he just carried on like nothing happened, which was even funnier, right? The ultra dry indigenous sense of humor
Oh my God.
that so many of us just don't get. Oh, it was hilarious. Like there was 200 people in this room, and we were pissing ourselves because nobody saw it coming. Right? That's like right out of left field. So to give you, a solemn ceremony, and he's talking about, this is the elders taught me, my father taught me, this is this ancient thing, and then he did that, and I'm like, you got to inject humor into a serious situation to keep yourselves from getting too upset or too, twisted about it. And
That is
that's
perfect.
something we can all learn.
Oh God, that is perfect. I love that.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed in my life. To this day, one of the funniest, because it was so out of left field. Nobody saw it coming.
Oh, those are the
He's like,
perfect things.
and the way he just bang, like it's very solemn. Well, okay, like, oh, this is going to be like some, and everybody was like, okay, here we go. Like everybody in the room, and I looked around, and everybody's like, okay, here we go. This is going to be something very spiritual and serious and solemn and hey, good looking. Oh God, it was funny.
Oh my God, I love that. Exactly, laughter is the best medicine, indeed.
It
Indeed,
is.
Kid Cassie.
Yes, it is.
All right.
So let's get back to the seriousness and the solemnness of this graceful moment, if we shall.
So the CBC article ends with, I was just grateful to hear her last testimony in regards to the verdict. I'm honored to have been able to be in her presence in the last minutes of her life, Menno said. She fought hard for our people. She's just someone I want to be like. Noreen Barlas, who is originally from Thompson, also came to the legislature to pay her respects to Merrick. She met Merrick over a decade ago when Barlas was an educator studying youth suicide for a graduate program. During that time, Barlas went to Pickacomac and developed a bond with Merrick, who invited her over for pickerel cheeks. The two remained close up until Merrick's death, she said. Quote, she's someone that embodies what a matriarch is in any society, said Barlas. Following the wake at the RBC Convention Center, Merrick's body will be returned to her home community of Pickacomac for wake service at the arena on Thursday and Friday. A last viewing will take place on Saturday ahead of the funeral service, and interment later that same day at Cross Lake Cemetery. And I have one picture here, Mr. Grizzly, that I'd like to show. If you'll put it up. That is the Grand Chief at the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, posing for a photograph in May 2023 as she prepared for the official royal coronation of King Charles III in London.
What a life she lived, my goodness. And in service of others, right? Which is
right.
Like, wow.
Oh, I'm getting a pronunciation check here. Pickachickamack.
Pickachickamack. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
We like to get things correct, and let's face it, sometimes you read it and it's in your head, it should sound this way, but
Yeah, and if ever there's a pronunciation thing, please do tell us. Let us know.
Because we do want to get things correct, and we're going to get things wrong.
And sometimes you'll need to tell us more than once, because sometimes we don't see it go by in the chat if we're like.
Well, and then something else to be considered too is just like once you read a word and you say it in your head before you say it out loud, it's kind of stamped on your brain that way.
Yes.
So feel free to correct us every single time. We are not insulted by it.
Yes. Pickachickamack. Okay.
Okay, let's show this clip from APTN. It's about 5 minutes, and it's worth your watch.
The untimely death of Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Cathy Merrick is still hard to believe and reverberating across the country. She returned home today to Pimachicamac Cree Nation, where a wake and funeral will be held. Our Truth in Politics panel is here to discuss the life and legacy of the Grand Chief. Jennifer Leywitz is a partner with Harbour, Pasqua Strategies in Prince Albert, and Negon Sinclair is the columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Jennifer and Egon, great to see you. Tough week here for sure. Jennifer, let's start with you. What was the word? Grand Chief Merrick had quite a national presence many times. What was the word there and her sudden passing in Saskatchewan?
I think the reaction was similar to what we saw at Manitoba. There was shock, obviously, because it was so sudden, and a lot of sadness. Chief was very highly respected across Canada for being, a really steadfast leader. And I think a lot of our leadership in Saskatchewan and our First Nations people were shocked and sad.
Egon, were you able to take part in any of the ceremonies? What were you hearing people say about Grand Chief Cathy Merrick?
Oh, you could not be a part of the immense grief that our community is experiencing here on Treaty 1, involving such a brilliant and dedicated leader. I wrote a column where I said that she's probably one of the best Grand Chiefs that the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has ever had. She had this very small term. She ended a previous Grand Chief's term and then was reelected resoundingly with a powerful majority amongst the Chiefs of Manitoba as the Grand Chief. And then on top of that, her legacy on certain issues will be stamped for a very long time, particularly on the Search the Landfill movement here in Manitoba, but then also the reformation of child welfare. They were just involved with the final stages of the child welfare big settlement here in Manitoba over the mistreatment of children in the child welfare system by provincial authorities and the federal authorities. So her legacy is deep, and as she told my daughter one time, she was just preparing seats for others, like young people, to come and eventually take those seats. So she was really a person who thought of others first.
Jennifer, Grand Chief Merrick is being remembered as a leader who got things done, especially as Egon mentioned with the search of the landfill. But she was very vocal on issues impacting First Nations peoples. How do you think she will be remembered?
I think you already said it, how she will be remembered. I think she'll be remembered as somebody that, took a stand on a lot of really important issues. And, like Egon had said, right now we're in the middle of some really heavy issues. We're talking about Bill C-92 child welfare reform, with the big deal coming from the federal government, where we need our chiefs to be active and to be at the table having these conversations to decide whether or not that deal should go through. The search of the landfill was a big one. There was families that needed advocacy there. We're also hearing about the RCMP and the Indigenous deaths that are happening within the hands of the RCMP and police across Canada. So I think there's a number of big issues right now, and losing somebody that was so monumental and such a great leader we're going to feel the impact for sure.
Egon, what do you think the legacy is that Grand Chief leaves behind?
So there's a really famous kind of moment here in Winnipeg, and you kind of have to be in the middle of Winnipeg politics to really experience it. There was a demonstration on the step of the legislature. Now, of course, Manitoba is well known for having the first First Nations premier of a province in history, Wabkanu, but he may or may not, but certainly in certain circles, like the circles that Grand Chief Merrick traveled, was moving perhaps a little slow for the families who were wanting searches for their loved ones at the Prairie Green landfill. And she stood on the steps of the legislature and demanded, quite forcefully, using very strong language, the premier move, and regardless of where he comes from, that he get off his butt and take some action. That, I think, is indicative of Grand Chief Merrick. Nobody was going to stand in her way when it came to the advocacy of her people. And unfortunately, I think, in the course of her duties, it's a very stressful job. And I think, if anything, that this is a reminder that we, at times, I think, are hard with our leaders as First Nations, Inuit, Métis people. But these are very stressful positions. These are positions in which a great deal of stress and, at times, your neglect of your health takes place. And I hope that what we remember is not just the brilliance and the beauty of Grand Chief Merrick and what she did, but also that we should be gentle. We should be caring and kind with our leaders who are trying very hard at times to, in a very stressful environment with very monumental obstacles in front of them, that we should be standing with them and support them too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will remember that speech on the ledge there, and a lot of people expressing concern about the crazy schedule that she was definitely keeping there. Thanks, Jennifer and Egon, to you both.
Yeah, miigwech. Nice.
Wow. Sorry, I got you muted there. Let me just, sorry. There we go.
There we go.
My apologies.
That's all right. That's all right. So, yeah. I don't know if we have any much more to add there. That's
what more do you say, right? I mean,
right.
Come on.
I mean, but I liked that the CBC article focused on a testimonial from members of the community, and of course, there was people that worked with her, in terms of like Premier Gary Doer and all that, but it was more heavily weighted to letting the community telling her story and reporting it, which is, again, I'm not sure younger me would have necessarily seen that mainstream press article back in the day. So slowly but surely, things are changing.
Indeed. Here I have,
and the fact that we do have an APTN to go to.
That makes a difference. So I have Cassie just sent me a thing from the CBC. This was published on September 10th, so just 2 days ago. And it says, Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs boycotts Winnipeg Free Press for insensitive images of late Grand Chief.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs says it is boycotting the Winnipeg Free Press. Hang on a second here. Let me just move this story where it's easier for me to read. Over what it calls the publication of insensitive images, in quotes, of the Assembly's late Grand Chief that were taken shortly before her death last week. Images the newspaper has now apologized for running. AMC Grand Chief Cathy Merrick, 63, had been speaking to several media outlets when she collapsed outside Winnipeg's law courts on Friday and was pronounced dead in hospital shortly after. An image posted on the Free Press website on Friday, this past Friday, September 6th, showed a crowd of staff and supporters gathering around the Grand Chief lying on the ground. Her upper body was partly visible, while her face was obscured by those crouching around her. It sparked backlash on social media, including from former Long Plain First Nation Chief Kyra Wilson, who said on Facebook that the media and other individuals have no right to post pictures of the deep loss suffered by our community. The image was removed from the Free Press's website by 8:51 p.m. on Monday, 72 minutes after the AMC issued a news release announcing its boycott of the news outlets. So yeah, some that's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, I have right over here, 'cause, somebody had posted a comment that I didn't quite understand when I was reading it, but there was a piece in the Winnipeg Free Press written, of course, in response to the reaction that this happened. And it's by Paul Salmon and Nigan Sinclair, who we just saw in that clip. So I'm guessing Nigan Sinclair says, if I'm looking at the quick bios at the end of opinion pieces, Paul Salmon is the editor of the Free Press, a role which has him responsible for all this newsroom produces on all platforms. And Nigan Sinclair is Anishinaabe and is a columnist at the Winnipeg Free Press. So I guess they wrote this together. So I'll read it in. A Promise to Listen, Learn in Our Commitment and Reconciliation by Paul Salmon and Nigan Sinclair. The tragic death of Cathy Merrick on the steps of the Winnipeg courthouse Friday while serving in her role as Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs sent shockwaves that reverberated well beyond our province. In a stark and striking moment in our history, her sudden passing came literally in the service of Indigenous people as she was speaking to reporters about two major court decisions: the acquittal of Corrections Officer Robert Jeffrey Morden in the 2021 death of Indigenous inmate William Amo, and the approval of a $530 million settlement for First Nations children in care. The Free Press joins with all Manitobans, and particularly those in the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Sorry,
What's the problem? Are you verklempt?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Just go ahead, take a sip of your tea. That'll help soothe your throat. I don't know if it works with the speaking part, though. I mean, honestly, one of the things that people say, here, have a glass of water, that'll help. I'm like, no, but you understand that if I put water into the part where I'm speaking, I will drown. Because that's your, as they say, the windpipe, the vocal cords. You don't put water on those. That's bad.
Yes.
It's bad.
All right. The Free Press joins with all Manitobans, and particularly those in the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, Pimicikamet, Cree Nation, and the Merrick family, in mourning the death of a remarkable and respected leader. Covering the gravity and wide-ranging impact of this event has been a central focus of our newsroom since Friday. Responding to concerns that arose from that coverage is the focus of this column, which breaks new ground for us as it is jointly written by the Free Press editor and its award-winning Indigenous columnist. The Free Press broke the news of Merrick's death and subsequently published tributes, interviews, and shared information regarding multiple events that spoke to the significance of her passing. We drew on the insights and community connections in the writings of our Indigenous columnist, who honored Merrick's legacy and his own experience with her, describing her as, quote, a brilliant, ethical, and strong leader, an ojima, a chief, a grand chief. As the oldest newspaper in Western Canada, the Free Press fully recognized the importance of this moment in our province's history. Our coverage included a photograph showing the rush of medical assistance to the Grand Chief during what is thought to be the final moments of her life. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but in this case, many of the words we heard described it as disrespectful, traumatizing, and dishonorable. We heard those words. And we listened to those words by first changing the presentation of our online coverage and then dialing back the image's prominence in our subsequent print edition. But we did not do as our Indigenous columnist initially advised, which was to remove the photograph. As per the Canadian Association of Journalists Ethical Guidelines, news agencies must report news factually and promptly. Quote, never distort the contents of news, photos, or video. Be, quote, complete and provide context when photographing or recording subjects. And, quote, treat all subjects with respect and dignity. When it comes to, quote, respect and dignity, the guidelines further advise, quote, give special consideration to vulnerable subjects and compassion to victims of crime or tragedy. Intrude on private moments of grief only when the public has an overriding and justifiable need to see. Based on those guidelines, reporting on the Grand Chief's sudden death on the steps of the law courts was absolutely newsworthy. To ensure Manitobans had quick access to information they can trust, we pressed resources inside and outside our newsroom into action. We were the first to publish the news hours ahead of other media, including 2 images from the day, one of Merrick speaking with reporters shortly before her collapse and one following her collapse that did not include her face but bore witness to the shock of onlookers and the rush of those desperately trying to save her. A sincere and worthwhile debate surrounds definitions of respect and dignity and the public's overriding and justifiable need to see, which the Free Press has been learning since becoming our province's news messenger in 1872 and continues to learn. The editors, writers, and reporters of the Free Press know full well the act of informing can sometimes be perceived as infuriating, even inciting. We take this responsibility seriously. Adding to the hurt the Indigenous community has already felt from the seismic events of recent headlines was never our intention. Over the weekend, Indigenous voices inside and outside our newsroom were again consulted. We reconsidered the requirements of reconciliation, in particular our community's experience of ongoing violence to Indigenous women. And to the extent that it can help healing, we have ensured the photojournalism that became such a flashpoint is no longer part of our coverage of this story. To those who were upset and traumatized by the photo, you have our sincere apology. To those who believe we have taken a backward step in our commitments to reconciliation, please know that we resolve to do better, to work more closely, to listen more. The Free Press, as always, is committed to being a newspaper for all Manitobans. And it was signed by both of Niga and Sinclair.
So I think that's I think that's the correct messaging there on their part. Yeah, we get it. We screwed up. We're terribly sorry. And what they say, it's the public's sort of thirst and the ability to disseminate how do we tell a story. Sometimes just tell a story and you don't need the photo. But, in a moment, the news cycle is quick and fast, and somebody said this will get us clicks. There's times to treat things with delicate kid gloves, and they didn't do that in this case. I think they've done well by their apology.
Yeah. In this sense, I'm not sure if this, because, if I'm looking at this in terms of looking from the Indigenous and non-Indigenous perspective,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, this thing happened. Click, 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 click.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's clearly newsworthy.
Well, and as a
Right.
photojournalist, you're going to immediately take the photos anyway.
You
right?
live with your camera. You live, sleep,
Yes.
eat, breathe with your camera, right?
Taking the photos is one thing. Whether or not you publish them is another, though.
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
thing. Like
But
recording the
again,
story, yes.
but again, headspace. I can see headspace being, right? Here's a photo as it's happening, right? And then, yeah, let's run, let's get it. We want to be as they're saying, we want to be the first to get this news out because it's of greater importance and like this. And just sometimes it's you just don't think, right?
Yes.
If it was any other person, right, and they're clicking and grabbing these photos, right? It might. I would put there's some people that might have said the same thing, and then there's a lot more people that might have been okay with it. But when different cultures, when someone dies, right, things are different, or they see things differently.
Correct.
So, for example, we often see at a crime scene, whatnot, like this, the ambulance and like the stretcher or something, like people going in like this, but like nobody comes and gets a close up of
right
the person, right? So that type of photo is not odd in journalism in and of itself. But in this context, right, it's not a crime. Right? It isn't like...
Yes, I understand.
The fact that she died is newsworthy, and the fact that she died fighting on the steps makes it even more newsworthy. But by the sense that, like again, if you were writing a Hollywood movie about a champion, and this is the stuff you put in it.
Well, this is the take, from Premier Wab Canoe, Premier of Manitoba. He gave his take as a former CBC reporter. It's recording a historic moment and respecting dignity.
Exactly, and you got to balance that.
Yes.
So, for example, when they said that later photo of like people just like looking shocked, that's
the reaction.
That's the one you maybe should have gone with first to see like what was happening in the moment, rather than trying to capture the scene, right?
Capture the scene, sit on it.
Yeah, because for historical purposes, later
you
on,
need to record it.
It might be needed.
Yes. So certainly record it. Absolutely, no question there. That's going to take place. As a photojournalist, you're going to record it. The editor should have had better judgment.
Yeah.
And show the reaction of people instead.
Yeah. But it takes a moment when somebody turns around and says, "Do you actually realize how insensitive that was?"
Yeah, a little sober second thought, right?
Right. And in this case, it seems people were open to listening rather than getting defensive. If you pay attention, slowly but surely, in little ways, love, peace, equality, equity are slowly breaking out around the world.
Thank goodness.
Hopefully. And this, I might even venture to say, has a lot to do with the person they are honoring. Given the example that she showed, I don't think any other avenue forward would have probably been appropriate.
Yes.
I mean, with the example she gave, right?
The comment here from Mohan, if it was their mother, would they want it to be exploited for clicks, right? And from PNC Bio, it's an important picture to have, maybe not the one to put in the paper. And
exactly.
That's what we're boiling this down to, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, if we are talking about exploiting for clicks, There is something that happened. It's in the United States that I want to mention. We have a Canadian story, and there is a Canadian connection to where I'm going with this, if you will
Okay. I'll indulge you.
me with this one. But since in the debate, that whole thing about eating cats and dogs,
Yes.
right?
That's a racist trope.
It's a racist trope. But they're talking about a town called Springfield in Ohio, where there's a significant Haitian community.
Yes.
That's there. And there was an incident where a young boy was killed in an automobile accident. And the other party was Haitian.
Oh, okay.
But it was an accident.
And these things do happen. Accidents happen every single day.
All right. So it seems that there are people that are working very, 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 very hard to make Springfield, Ohio, the next Roehampton, UK.
Yes.
And the young boy's parents had something to say about it. And it's right in line with exploiting for clicks.
So we'll air this. It's 3 minutes and 29 seconds.
Yes. And this is,
We're going to begin with public comment tonight. And I will call on Nathan Clark, who will go to the podium. Thank you, Nathan. You have 3 minutes.
We felt it would be in our best interest to be here after recent comments. You know, I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone. The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces. But even that's not good enough for them. They take it one step further. They make it seem as though our wonderful Aiden appreciates your hate, that we should follow their hate. And look what you've done to us. We have to get up here and beg them to stop. Using Aiden as a political tool is, to say the least, reprehensible for any political purpose. And speaking of morally bankrupt, politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, they have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They can vomit all the hate they want about illegal immigrants, the border crisis, and even untrue claims about fluffy pets being ravaged and eaten by community members. However, they are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies. To clear the air, my son, Aiden Clark, was not murdered. He was accidentally killed by an immigrant from Haiti. This tragedy is felt all over this community, the state, and even the nation. But don't spin this towards hate. In order to live like Aiden, you need to accept everyone, choose to shine, make the difference, lead the way, and be the inspiration. What many people in this community and state and nation are doing is the opposite of what you should be doing. Sure, we have our problems here in Springfield and in the U.S., but does Aiden Clark have anything to do with that? Did you know that an 11-year-old boy could be passionate about gardening, that he could haggle for a better price at a yard sale? Did you know that he researched different cultures to better appreciate and understand people that he interacted with? Did you know that one of the worst feelings in the world is to not be able to protect your child? Even worse, we can't even protect his memory when he's gone. Please stop the hate. I said to Aiden that I would try to make a difference in his honor. This is it. Live like Aiden. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. There are real people behind these things.
Yep.
One such real person, and this is the link. It's Brianna McDonald. She died last month in Abbotsford, BC, in a homeless camp. She was just 13 years old. Her death was caused by suspected overdose, according to her family, and her grieving parents are urging change so other families don't have to face what they're going through. Brianna's mom said, despite the family's ongoing attempts to get her help for her addictions and mental health issues, their pleas were ignored in a system they said failed Brianna at every turn. Quote, she was robbed of so much way too young, said Brianna's tearful mother, Sarah McDonald. Brianna's story is tragic and complex. Her mom said her daughter started smoking pot at just 10 and a half years old.
Oh my.
Quote, I got very upset with her. We had many talks about why it was dangerous and how she was way too young, recalled Sarah McDonald. By age 12, Brianna was using a drug known as Molly. And family said the more they tried to get her to stop, the more it seemed she wanted to use. Quote, I think a lot of the reason she was doing the drugs was the mental health problems she was having, and she was trying to drown them with drugs, McDonald said. Family said that despite Brianna's age, she had access to Fraser Health-supplied drug paraphernalia, including needles, naloxone kits, and pamphlets on how to use safely. But her family said what they instead wanted from Fraser Health was to get their daughter treatment. Quote, children are not able to buy alcohol, they're not able to buy marijuana at the marijuana store, they can't buy cigarettes, but they can have access to crack pipes and kits to be able to do safe injection. It's just wrong, said her stepfather, Lance Charles. Brianna's mom said that in February, her daughter was hospitalized for a suspected overdose and ended up first at BC's Children's Hospital and then was transferred to a child psychiatric ward at Surrey Memorial. Quote, I begged them not to leave her. I begged them. So did her dad. And we tried really hard. We said she's not mentally capable. She was sticking pencils through her hand when she was in the psych ward there, her mom said. The family wanted her held involuntarily so she could get help they said she desperately needed, but the family said they were told Brianna had the right to decide herself despite her only being 12 years old at the time. Quote, these parents have to be able to mandate that the kids stay there, said her dad, Jesse Griffith. Quote, she's 12, she's my legal responsibility, so how come I don't have the right to say she needs to stay there, her mom added. They said despite their objections, Brianna was discharged. Some months later, she became violent at home and her mom ended up in hospital. Her mom said with other children at home, she couldn't keep Brianna there if she was using. Brianna was moved to a youth center in Abbotsford but ran away. She ended up living in a now dismantled Abbotsford homeless camp. She died inside her tent, her parents receiving the heartbreaking news in late August. I thought, no, this isn't possible, her mom said through tears. Despite the difficulties Brianna faced, her mom described her daughter as sweet and kind. The two still texted or spoke every day, and her mom would visit her at the camp. But the family said despite their love for Brianna and her love for them, it was not enough to stop the demons of addiction and mental illness that stole her childhood and ultimately her life. Quote, she had such a hard life for such a little girl, her grieving mom said. The family is calling on government to support involuntary treatment and to do more to protect children like Brianna. In a statement to CTV News, Fraser Health said it's saddened by the child's death. Quote, while we would not speak to the specifics of her care, Fraser Health and provincial partners are working to review her care journey. We believe it is crucial to honor her memory by carefully examining what happened, learning from this tragedy, and working together to ensure that such heartbreaking loss doesn't happen again, the statement reads. Fraser Health also said that, quote, as with any medical intervention, decisions about how to best treat a young person who is struggling with substance use or mental health challenges are made by healthcare providers, guided by BC's mature minor consent rules and under the Infants Act. Fraser Health also said that their records only indicate Narcan was provided to the family, but Brianna's parents said their daughter had other drug paraphernalia from the health authority. Now, the reason I am mentioning this in the whole context of exploiting for clicks is because with this story, this is what our leader of the opposition decided to do.
Yeah. I will try and reserve my anger as I read this to you. This is a parent's worst nightmare. My thoughts are with Brianna's family as they deal with this unimaginable loss. Young people and their families deserve access to treatment and recovery, not hard drugs to fight addiction. Bring our loved ones home drug-free.
That's Pierre Poilievre, by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah, that leader of the opposition, scumbag of the earth. Of course he's going to exploit that. Of course he would. I expect nothing less from that walking, talking pile of human fecal matter. I expect nothing less from him.
We need some boundaries, man.
Yeah, no, he has none. He will exploit everything and everyone if it will gain him a click, a point. This man has no scruples. He is a complete narcissist and will exploit anyone and everything if he feels he can gain from it.
But the situation in the UK, it's 3 children at a party. Let's use this moment to blame asylum seekers.
Yes.
This young kid in Ohio, an accident. Let's use this opportunity to blame the Haitian community.
Of course.
Tragic moment again. Here in
goes
Canada, let's
goes
use this opportunity to
Well, it goes back to this, right?
hate liberals, progressives, or Trudeau.
Goes back to this, careful, mate, that foreigner wants your cookie, right?
Yeah. I know we're far past this because everybody just yells free speech, but my God, I long for a return to decency.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that there is nothing in the reptilian part of the brain that says that this is something that is not done.
Well, this comment from Super Kyle, it really upsets me when people say anyone shouldn't have access to these services. This is going to happen no matter if the site exists. Period. Let's get people the help that they need. The help. And you're right, Super Kyle. It's going to happen. So let's, it's called a safe consumption site. We know that people are going to use and abuse drugs and alcohol. Well, alcohol is a drug, so but I will discern the two just so that people understand. People are going to do that. So let's set it up so that they can do so safely. And if they find themselves in jeopardy, we can help them. Because it's going to happen regardless. It's going to happen. So let's make it so that they can do so safely. And if they need help, we can help them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I am oh God.
Yeah.
It's like, can we can talk about crime,
Mm-hmm.
and we could talk about societal problems without having to exploit people's personal tragedies in this way. It's like, if somebody dies, it's probably not a good idea to put their names in your mouth to advance a cause without getting the permission of the family. And even if like this, why would you even go looking for the permission of the family while they're grieving?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is no one on earth Pierre Poilievre will not exploit if he thinks it can get him a point. I mean, he filmed people outside of an encampment of tents in British Columbia saying, these people here. And I'm like, dude, did you get permission from a single one of those people to show them? Have you no sense of dignity? No, he clearly doesn't because he's a narcissist. He's a walking, talking, living, breathing pile of human fecal matter. Nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell people he is a disgusting human being, I mean it. In my soul, down to the core of my very fiber of existence, he is a walking, talking pile of human fecal matter. He is a horrible human being. And I don't think I've ever felt that way about another living, breathing human being. This man has zero redeeming qualities, not a single freaking one, not a one. He will exploit anyone and everyone for his advantage. If he can benefit from it, you will be exploited by him. Now, I do have compassion because we do believe that there are two things about him that we know to be true. One, he does consume a lot of alcohol. Is he an alcoholic? Possibly. Does he need some help? Presumably. If he does, I hope he gets the help he needs. And the other one is that we believe he's not found the handle to the closet door, which I hope that someday he does so that he can live a true life. If that's the case. If that's the case. Yeah, I know you get squeamish about that, but if that's the case, I hope he does find it so that he can live a true and honest life, which I don't know that he's capable of without like several thousand hours of therapy.
So,
if that's the case.
Yeah.
I didn't come out and call him that. I just.
I know. It's the bringing up the.
I know
the rumors.
I know.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard because he so deserves it. But I mean, just
this is and again, I did not call him out. I said allegedly.
I know.
This is the case, right?
I know.
And I'm not gonna come right out and say it, even though it's the rumors have floated for decades.
I'm going to look slightly disapprovingly, but not judge hard.
again, as I've said time and time again, we don't see eye to eye on 100% of topics, and we're not going to because we're human beings.
Yep. But yeah, I would really like this type of stuff to stop.
Yeah.
Like this, you do not have to sit in front of the tents of a homeless encampment at 3 a.m. and film something to have a video for clicks. You do not have to take the example of a 13-year-old child and saying, "See, the thing is going to happen, and let's bring it." It's like the family's grieving, and yes, considering the age of the child, and is 12 too young in a case? Maybe it depends on illnesses, but there are ages at which we start asking children about what they would like, especially when it comes to their healthcare. This maybe 12 when you're addicted. Maybe that should change.
Yes.
Like this.
Well, the system failed this child.
Yes. But then we get to the whole question, right, of involuntary involuntary treatment, which is, some people are saying it should apply to everybody, and now there's like human rights cases, whatnot. There's a certain age when we're talking about children, however, where there are different things, the rules are different. So, but regardless of your position on this, because you can clearly understand why a family of a 12 or 13-year-old child, or a child because she started smoking pot at 10, would have liked to be able to get somebody to do something, rights or no rights. It's their child.
Mm-hmm.
And they clearly see that she's in distress, and they clearly want help, and they're clearly doing all the things that they've been told they need to do in order to get help, but they're not getting help.
Yeah.
You know what? After that, I too would be saying, why the hell not? That's the thing. You have to find that line. That's why we elect people. That's why we hope that we have thoughtful people. Because these are hard questions. And you are going to make mistakes. Because nobody gets everything perfect the first time. And when you make a mistake, it's going to land on you when there's going to be a crisis. And how you handle that crisis says a lot about you.
Yes.
We just saw an example, Winnipeg Free Press, how they handled a crisis.
We screwed up. We get it.
But I mean, come on, man. There's to take that very normal, parent reaction and say, see, this is proof that I'm right. Dude, come on. They didn't ask for this. The parents didn't ask for their child to be brought into this like that. What are you doing? I don't just that's the part of it for me. It's like, you know what, you could be craven, you could be like this. I get it, there are people are, but it's just the ickiness, the utter ickiness. Again, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It's politics. Everybody exploits something, I guess, and the line of good taste is not at the same spot for everyone. But come on, man. The memory of a 13-year-old child who died this tragically in these particular set of circumstances, there's discernment, please. I think that's where it's just the utter lack of the capacity for discernment.
Indeed.
It's like you don't have to swing at every goddamn pitch. Ugh. Gross. All right. Do you want to pivot to Jugmeat now? Because I still want to make sure that we get Coots in, because that one's late too.
Yeah, I know. Let's pivot to Jugmeat, because what in the Christ?
Oh God!
What in the what, dude? We've said time and time again, he keeps regurgitating conservative talking points. Now he's completely in line with Pierre Poilievre. Completely in line with Pierre Poilievre. First he bowed down to Pierre Poilievre when he said, you should tear up the agreement, and because of this and that and the other thing. And so, is he Pierre Poilievre's whipping boy? Because it certainly seems like it. Because Poilievre says, tear up the agreement. Sellout, sing, tear up the agreement. The sellout, sing part is the one that just kills me. He's like, now we want you to vote non-confidence, sellout, sing. So he insults the man and then says, vote with me. What? What politician does that? What person, what living, breathing, cognitive human being does that? I need your vote, you outrageous asshole. Insult the person whose support you're asking for.
And then they do the thing that you tell them to do, and then you come out and you insult them more. It's twice now.
We're in the upside down world, right? This does not make any sense.
Oh my God. Okay. So for people who are, again, wondering, because we sort of started in the middle, what's going on? Now, for some people, this will seem like news. It's not actually news. He's hinted at this before, and we have mentioned it on the show once or twice, that he was okay. He's basically reminded us many, many times that he's ripped up the deal. That's the supply and confidence agreement.
Tore it up.
Right.
I don't think it was actually a piece of paper that he tore up.
So he signed the deal, and then he was forcing him to do stuff that they had signed on to do, but he was forcing them, and now he's ripped the deal. But the deal that, because they're too selfish and too beholden and too weak, apparently, but they got all the stuff out of that deal, and not all of it is fully implemented yet. So they're going to now use the threat of non-confidence to force them to do what it is that they already said they were going to do and were in the process of doing, and are going in front of every mic saying they have full intention to keep on doing. So I don't know how much you need to force. So he's still saying that this deal, which he got so much out of them by forcing them into stuff, even though they were too weak and too selfish and too beholden. So they had to
Right.
get out of it now.
So let's
in
see.
order-
I held up my end of the deal in the bargain. I did everything you asked me to, and you left because. Wait a minute. What? That's exactly what took place.
Yes. And apparently, the way they did it is they just sent like this email to the generic Canadian PM account.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, hi, we've been in this deal with you for the last 2.5 years. We got some pretty sweet things out of it. But here's a note to some email address that you're going to. I mean, it's like you broke up with him by text or something, right? It's like, this is not, again, decency. Hello, Prime Minister. Yes, this is Jagmeet Singh. Yes, like this. Things have changed. I need to make a decision. It's no hard feelings, no this, nor that. But we're going to be announcing in 3 days that we are going to be coming out of the supply and confidence agreement deal. It gives you a couple of days to organize your positions, whatnot, like this. We're not going to trash or anything like that. We're just going to say, it's like it's time and let's walk out. I said, okay, sure, fine. Right. And then everybody kind of looks honorable.
Well,
Even though the decision still doesn't make any sense.
I've bumped into the street a number of times in downtown Ottawa. I've bumped into him, said hello, and very pleasant exchanges. The next time I see him, and it will happen, I will just say, bro, what are you doing? It'll be a very polite, very cordial exchange of, bro, what are you doing? Why do you keep regurgitating the conservative leaders' talking points? What are you doing? And I mean, and it will be very cordial, it will be very polite, and it will be a measured tone. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're harming the country, and you're harming people like me. Why?
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to play the clip of what we are talking about. Now, oddly enough, this press opportunity was not about this. Right? The NDP is having its convention. It's the end of the convention. He is coming out to have like some sort of like last little press availability, and was talking away and that type of stuff. And then one of the questions that came about was asking him something. Now the audio for the people asking the question is not very, very loud at all, so I'm not able to understand what it is that was being asked. So I'm just going to start with Jagmeet's answer, and you'll see he mentioned something kind of casually, and that's what I'm saying. It's not like he has hinted at this before, so I'm guessing that's probably why the question came, because this discussion hasn't been anywhere in the public sphere over the last 4 or 5 months. Nobody's raised this, nobody's mentioned this, so there's no reason to be bringing it up somehow, other than okay, now the supply and confidence agreement is no longer a thing. You've mentioned in the past that maybe there was another way other than a carbon tax that you would be likely to champion. How do you feel about that now, given that Pierre Poilievre says he's going to call a bond confidence motion to get himself a carbon tax election at the first opportunity? Thus, basically going again, now, let's see, I've got you to do it twice now. Let's see if you'll do it a third time now, like this. What are you, chicken? So, this is Jagmeet Singh's answer.
Let's watch this.
Well, let's also be clear about Pierre Poilievre's position. He wants to have free reign for big polluters to pollute as much as they want. His plan is to say there should be no penalty if a company pollutes into the river or to the water or to the air in their communities. So that's his plan. He wants big polluters to do whatever they want, no rules for them. We're saying that they should be paying their fair share. A company that pollutes and poisons the environment, there should be a price on that. There should be a cost to that. They shouldn't be able to get away with poisoning our air or water or land without any penalty at all. That's what Pierre Poilievre is proposing. When it comes to workers, though, we disagree with the approach of Justin Trudeau, who's tried to pit workers against each other. He set up a scenario where in certain regions, based on electoral politics, he's giving advantages to the Atlantic provinces over other parts of the country. We disagree with that. I've came out very strongly opposed to that approach. We want to see an approach to fighting the climate crisis where it doesn't put the burden on the backs of working people, where big polluters have to pay their fair share, they have to pay the price of their pollution, but it shouldn't be on working people's shoulders. And so we've been working on a plan, and we'll be releasing our plan, our vision for how we can do that in a stronger way in the coming months.
Will the plan include a consumer carbon tax?
Well, we'll let you know when the plan is ready, and we'll let you know more details about it.
Okay.
So we have a concept of a plan.
Exactly.
We have a concept of a plan.
Right?
And he's literally falling in line with Pierre Poilievre on this one. Like, well, you don't want it on the backs of working people. Working people get more from it than they pay into it. Bro, has no one explained this to you? You lead a party. Why are you parroting conservative talking points that is a line of utter bovine scatology? Or for those of you who do not know what that means, bullshit.
Yes. So here he is. And this is where I'm saying that this is not the first time, because when the Liberals came out with the option for not Atlantic Canada, as they keep on trying to frame it, but for all of Canada,
All
no
of
matter
Canada.
where you live in Canada,
Yes.
if you happen to use home heating fuel, which is one of the dirtiest ways to heat your home and one of the most expensive at the same time,
Heating
you
oil with
would
diesel.
get, for the period of 3 years, yes, the ability or the right to not have to pay any of the carbon regulatory fee, and
Correct.
you would have access to subsidies and loans and stuff that would help you convert to a heat pump so that you could get off that system forever.
Yes. And save
I
money
guess,
in the long
or only
run.
have it as a backup in case it was needed, because you don't. This is
You should
Canada.
always have two, right?
This is Canada. But thus permanently reducing your GHG emissions and permanently having those cost savings.
Well, I have a number of family members in New Brunswick who I was visiting recently when I went down to help my parents out. Who they've all got heat pumps put in, all of them. All of them have put heat pumps in, and they're like, they've noticed their costs have diminished immediately.
Oh yes,
They're cool because they did it in the spring and throughout the summer, so the cooling aspect has worked incredibly well. How it will work in the winter? Well, actually, where they live in New Brunswick, it doesn't get as cold as it does here in Ottawa. Like minus 18 in Halifax, the city comes to a screeching halt because it very rarely ever gets that cold. And that's true. People on, and I'm sure Ree can attest to this. It doesn't often get that cold in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. It's rare. Yes, you get a lot of snow, but minus 18 is a rarity in that part of the country.
Yeah. So,
yes, you are correct, PNC Bio.
So, yeah.
I did speak incorrectly. You are correct on that.
Yes.
Bovine scat.
Yes. So,
Scatological humor.
Jagmeet Singh has been the leader of the NDP since 2017. In the 2021 election, the party's carbon mitigation plan, carbon climate plan, whatever, was kind of laughed out of the entire election by anybody serious. It was like we literally had a situation where the Liberals, the beholden to corporate interests, too weak and too selfish Liberals, had a climate policy that was rated better than the NDP's. The world was flipped on its head. Then came the time to act on this exemption. That's the word I was looking for. And Jagmeet Singh voted against that.
Yeah.
And now here he is saying, and you know what? There might be a case to be made that even though it is absolutely the best way to go about it and the least expensive, that it is now so politically toxic that we have to find another way because the Conservatives have managed to poison the well so badly. And that strategically, this is a genius move from Jagmeet Singh to be the first to jump off that ledge if he wants to be Canada's progressive option. He sees the future. He sees that talking about carbon tax the way we've been talking about it is political suicide now. So let's move to another model. Problem is he's had 7 years to come up with another model.
Yes.
Just like Donald Trump has had as Kamala Harris pointed out, 9 years to come up with another version of Obamacare.
Yeah.
This wonderful, great plan that they keep on telling us is coming. Just wait. You'll see it.
Mhm.
Stephen Harper did the same thing for about a decade. It's like, with carbon stuff, we have our own plan.
Yes.
The sector by sector regulation like this, that they only regulated 2 sectors and never happened. But he kept on saying he got very far on very little. He got very far, but they say that, but we have our own plan. May we see it? What is it? When will you start implementing it? We have our own plan. That's all we got. Look back. You'll see.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we got out of him. And then eventually he did announce that there would be some type of carbon regulatory pricing because it is an inherently conservative idea. As Stephen Harper was facing the music that it was going to start affecting international trade if we didn't have any whatsoever, because where we would be able to export our products would be limited. And when you like making money, well, having fewer markets to sell your products is like the shower scene from Psycho. See, we could have used the scream again there.
This one the other day from Pierre Poilievre on September 10th. When you tax the truckers who move the food, you tax Canadians who buy the food. By 2030, the NDP Liberal carbon tax will cost our long-haul truckers $4 billion. Signed to axe the tax and bring home lower prices. Okay, Pierre, you might have noticed I had a comment in here. Let's not forget every trade deal we have with European countries require a carbon regulatory recovery fee. No plan, no deal. By axing it, he would cost us billions and kill thousands of jobs. He cannot tell the truth about anything. 3-word slogans is all he has.
Yep. Exactly.
If you kill the carbon regulatory recovery fee, because it is not a tax as determined by the Supreme Court of Canada, if you kill that, trade deals we have globally are done. They're finished. They're gone. Gone. He doesn't mention that when he talks to people about how he's going to axe the tax, because he knows he can't axe the tax, because he knows that if he does that, it will cost us billions and lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of jobs. He knows this, but he's lying to you.
It'll be a hidden tax with him.
Yes, of course. And there'll be no rebate for Canadians, by the way.
No. Well, no, there will be no rebate, and we already have proof of that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not. So Jagmeet Singh believes that not only he has to distance himself from the Liberals, but he has to distance himself from our current carbon pricing regulatory system that exists, that is sound, that cannot no longer be legally challenged because we already paid all the money for all the courts and all the lawyers to go up and have the Supreme Court rule on it definitively.
Well, and remember
and he wants to go and he wants to start this process up all over again with another system.
This is from CP24, this headline. Canadian CEOs worry about climate change all or most of the time. In a survey, the proportion of Canadian business leaders who say they are worried about climate change jumped dramatically in 2024. In a newly released report by Deloitte, 85% of the 129 Canadian executives surveyed between May and June of this year said they worry all or most of the time about climate change. 85%. That's a sharp increase from the 59% who said they worried all or most of the time in 2023. Notably, this year's edition of the Deloitte survey shows many Canadian C-suite executives identify themselves as being personally affected by climate change. 54% of those surveyed said they have been impacted in the past year by flooding, while 47% said they have experienced extreme heat, and 33% said they have been affected by wildfire or wildfire smoke. What showed up in the survey was the sense that executives had been personally impacted by a number of areas that are climate related. As executives are experiencing more directly those impacts in their lives, I think that translates perhaps to it being more front of mind for them. The findings coincide with what will likely go down as Earth's hottest year on record after a summer of scorching temperatures globally. In Canada, this is key. The insurance industry has already declared 2024 the most costly year ever for weather disasters. Storm-related flooding in Toronto and southern Ontario, the wildfires in Jasper, and a severe Calgary hailstorm count among the severe weather events experienced this year. According to Deloitte, 78% of Canadian C-suite executives expect a high or very high impact from climate change on their strategies and operations over the next 3 years, compared to 70% of the survey's global respondents. In Canada, a majority of executives said their operations are already being impacted in many ways, including higher insurance costs and lack of insurance availability. That last part is very key: lack of insurance availability. The cost of climate mitigation and scarcity and cost of resources. This is the thing that we need to focus on here. It's the lack of insurance availability, because insurance companies are not insuring homes in the state of California. You buy a new home? Sorry, we're not insuring it. You build a new home? Sorry, we're not insuring it. Like, excuse me, what? No, the chances of it being burnt to the ground by a wildfire or a mudslide or. No. The insurance companies in the state of California, a state, by the way, with 40 million people, 2 million less than Canada, thank you very much, a country in and of itself, an economy that can support itself independent of the rest of that nation, the state of California is going to have to come up with state-funded insurance, because private insurance companies will not insure new homes in that state. That's going to happen here soon too. I guarantee it. It's not a question of if, but when. And when that happens, provinces will have to come up with their own provincially funded insurance companies, like they already have in British Columbia for automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, when it's a provincial matter, it's not focused on profit. It's focused on coverage. And if you have a good driving record, guess what? The following year, your rate drops and you get a rebate in the form of a check deposited into your account. Why can't we do that here in Ontario? Oh, I know why. Dougie's friends won't be able to profit from it.
So
I have to step away for a few minutes, sir, while I needed to go take care of Ms. Lola. I'll join you on the phone in a few minutes, but Ms. Lola really needs to go out, so I'll be back shortly.
Yep, absolutely. So yes, Jagmeet Singh comes out as establishing some distance on carbon pricing, says he'll be working on a plan that he'll present. So typically, as Mr. Grizzly said, concepts of a plan. When we already have the system that is the most effective and the least disruptive. Now, it doesn't mean it's the only thing that we have to do, because if we were doing all of that, then we'd have to set that carbon tax rate way higher and change behavior way more quickly. And we would still need some incentive programs and help people with transitioning to different methods of production, and establishing the infrastructure for all of that. That's all of that work still needs to be done. So we are going to be spending money in other ways. It's never been comprehensible to me that the Conservatives are against this, because they know it needs to be done. There will be economic impact and consequences, like we were saying, that will limit our trade, and they definitely don't want that if they are the party of the economy. So therefore, at some point, it becomes an inevitable cost of doing business. So since it is, let's make it the most efficient, less bureaucratic, which is a carbon price. So they can't, in genuine conservatism, they can't outright the liberals, because this actually is a good idea from the right. And it's been implemented. And then for the NDP, the fact that they're claiming that it's happening on the backs of workers is completely diving into Poilievre's populist talk, of course. And he's, of course, has some motivations, because about half of the NDP's seats come from British Columbia. But he's got another part of his seats that do come from more rural communities, right? So he's trying to speak to two different groups at the same time with this one. So he has to come up, because he's saying that he still believes that we can't give polluters a free pass. Now, that might mean legislation that strictly imposes some type of fee on heavy emitters, because I'm not sure if we have that yet on the heaviest emitters, because Alberta conservative governments do what conservative governments do when you talk about, raising the cost to produce oil and gas by even 1 cent in any way. So that could have something, could be something that's at play here. But he's going to have to find a solution that either imposes these fees on heavy emitters in some way, or caps or something in some way that doesn't translate back down to the worker, as he calls it. But we all know that the way tax policy works is if you raise a corporation's inputs, then generally they will raise their prices. So eventually it all becomes passed down to the worker. And that's why I'm saying, if both of these parties are going to be addressing this in some way that allows us to still maintain our economic trade, they're going to have to be hiding the tax somehow, rather than have it transparent like it is now. So they can either impose that, or they will have to find, like I said, a way to hide the tax and keep on raising it somehow without it being as obvious. And then they have to come up with a plan. They have to come and present it. And as I mentioned before, let's say they did become the government, then I'm sure, the Conservatives would want to litigate this new plan all the way up, and we would be at it for another, 10 years or so before we would get a Supreme Court decision on it. As far as many Canadians are concerned, this issue is settled now as well. And especially for people on the side of the political spectrum from whom Jagmeet Singh needs to get some votes, because yes, he wants to keep the seats that he has, but hopefully as a party leader, he would want to expand. And there is an opportunity for him to expand because, as we mentioned often, in Western Canada, a lot of the two-way battles are Conservative NDP, not necessarily Conservative Liberal. So I see that Jagmeet Singh is trying to speak to that section of the potential vote. But there are lots of swing Liberal NDP voters who do support the carbon tax, and they're just seeing this happen. And it's like, it's like one bridge too far. It's like one bridge too far. Whatever solution Jagmeet Singh is going to propose is going to be more expensive and more bureaucratic than the one that we have now. It just can't help it. So hopefully it will be easier to explain, because that's about the only way you can get it. But he might be sacrificing a big amount of votes on the left flank of his party in order to try and shore up some progressive conservative vote that doesn't want to go conservative out west. Now, the thing about this in particular that I find, again, depending on how you want to look at, very strategic or very dickish, is that we have two by-elections coming up, Elmwood-Transcona and La Salle-Ville-Verdun on the 16th, so in 3 days. So the move to distance himself from the Liberals was seen by a lot of people as a move to try and show voters in these two electoral districts, hey, if you really are tired of the Liberals but still want a progressive option, Is now we're giving you a permission structure to vote for us because we are no longer in the supply and confidence agreement. So, we have a little more independence, or more freedom to stand up to them, or to propose alternatives, or to press them for more, or however it is that they are going to try to sell this. But you can feel safe voting for us. We are not liberals, because we are different. We are similar enough, but we are different. And that could work. Again, we're talking about, especially in a by-election, given that so few people come out to vote, we're talking about, small numbers. So, if 100 or 150 votes are swung by that, that could be the difference in a tight three-way race. Also, on with Transcona, if they are in a dogfight with the Conservatives for that one, and if it is more of a Blakey seat than it is an NDP seat, well, that could help there too. But carbon tax politics plays way differently in Quebec than it does in Manitoba. And I find it very interesting that this move here that brings attention to him no longer being all in on carbon regulatory pricing as we have it now happens in the by-election process after early voting is closed in Montreal. So everybody who voted early for the NDP in Montreal voted before attention was brought to this policy plank. But before the vote in Manitoba. I find it hard to believe that the timing is accidental. But again, it was a question that came from a journalist. But that seems particularly somewhat disrespectful to the voters in each of these two electoral districts. So I'm going to make sure that I lock up the pro-green vote in Montreal in the early voting, and then sort of bait and switch you in the 3 days before the actual vote for those showing up at the polls, and hopefully that'll help me secure the seat in Manitoba. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe not that much thought was put into it. But my squirrely political mind just can't help but notice the timing of drawing attention to this different policy plank. Ooh, something must have happened. So yeah, we'll see what fallout there is from that. I mean,
sorry,
yes.
There's a dead squirrel here in the field, and she was chewing on it, so I had to address that quickly. Like, what? Okay. I just looked down and I'm like, what is? Oh my god!
Jeez.
Yeah, it was the carcass of a dead squirrel. Not even. It's only the bottom half too. Not even the whole squirrel.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They had to stop that.
So I know right now, Mademoiselle Fox is in the living room going, "Oh my god." She's watching this show from the couch. I'm sorry, darling. I stopped her, but I'm like, oh, well, you saw my reaction. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to disrupt and dislodge and derail, but crisis, right? Crisis averted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the situation. I don't know if you were able to listen in to any of that.
I heard some of it, yes, not all of it, but I did hear a good portion of it, and I'm in complete agreement with you.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Again, right? It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see where it leads. But
yeah,
I mean, if he does come up with a great plan,
okay. But
like
the thing that kills me, though,
or reasonable, but
sure. But the thing that kills me is he's repeating and parroting Poilievre's talking points.
Yes.
But it's on the backs of working Canadians, when we know damn well that is not the case.
I know.
It's like, why does he continue to do? He keeps shooting himself in the foot by parroting the opposition's bullshit remarks, and that's the part that kills me.
It seems to me that the extent of the strategy is because he keeps on saying, well, people are done with Justin Trudeau. They're just done. They're just done. That's why I ripped it. The people are done. So it's like, if they're done with Justin Trudeau, and the polls seem to indicate that they like Pierre way more than they like Jagmeet, because Jagmeet's party's at 17 and Pierre's is at 42 in the polls. I guess maybe if I act like that, those will call me back. Maybe if he
I'll be
acts
right
like
back.
Pierre, the people who want someone who speaks like Pierre but isn't as icky and smarmy as Pierre will vote Jagmeet. But I just don't. I don't understand. I understand that you have to make distinctions some way. I understand that the carbon tax, as they keep on calling it, is politically unpopular. But the Conservatives don't want it to exist at all and don't really want to have to do anything to address the issue in any way. And you allegedly do. It seems to me that if this was some deeply held belief that you've held for a while, let's say during the last 2 years that you've been a partner in this confidence and supply agreement, or, since 2017, around the time you became leader, on the at least 20 occasions that something related to the carbon tax came up in the House of Commons to vote upon, and you voted in favor of it, but now all of a sudden you are not. And you don't have anything to present as you are pushing this line. I guess, we will have a better plan, not rather than, well, this has been bothering me for all this time, allegedly, and so I've only started now to think up of an alternative plan. Again, just on its face, there's something about this that's not right, and where it is that the skip on the record is in this whole process of him changing this is, I can't identify yet. There's not enough information out in the public domain to know. But it just seems to me that if this was something, a policy plank that he had really believed for quite a long time, he would have had something to alternative to offer, not just simply saying we're moving away from this because now we feel, after having voted for it 20 times, that it is an imposition on the workers and we need something new. Because why not just come up and say like this? I've heard some rhetoric that's saying, the carbon tax as we know it has served its useful purpose and now we need to evolve to the next step. That's the way you could frame something.
Apologies for stepping away. I had a 2-bag of Polyev I had to deal with there. A double bagger.
Okay.
Well, no, Lola had to, let us know how she feels about Pierre.
Oh, we have a frozen Mr. Grizzly there, but I think we know. Yes.
Am I back?
Froze for a bit, but I think we knew where you were going with that one. Yeah, you're back. So, and here's the... Pardon? Okay, we have a little delay, so I'll just continue here.
No, I know why. It was my phone switched to the lieutenant's pump Wi-Fi because I'm close by, so I just killed the Wi-Fi so I can just operate on my cell phone and we're good to go. Okay, I apologize for stepping away there.
All right. So in an interview or a panel discussion, I should say, that I saw yesterday on CTV. Now, this comes out of the mouth of Christy Clark. So how much of this is authentic fact and without any spin or this? I didn't have time to research that part. But she did mention, when she's talking about the experience in British Columbia, the BC Liberals, who actually are Conservatives, when they brought in the carbon tax, they said the money was used to provide tax cuts, whereas the current NDP government has taken the money and has just added it to general revenues. She also said that the BC Liberals had frozen the rate of the carbon fee, whereas the current NDP government has raised it. Now, for the NDP federally, because often people like to look at when we're talking about the NDP, well, there's an NDP government there, and they have a carbon tax there. So why is there a difference between the federal and the provincial parties? Why is there all this discrepancy? It seems there have been some changes in the BC program, if the version of Christy Clark is to be believed. And maybe there's some kits in the chat from BC, although it would be rather early,
Yeah,
who could confirm
a little
that.
bit.
Now, the other thing is that this is actually not a new position for the NDP, because if you will remember, when Jack Layton was the leader of the party, he wasn't pro-carbon tax either. I think he was way more pro-cap and trade, if I'm not mistaken. So not being pro-carbon regulatory pricing in the way that we have it now is not necessarily a new position for the NDP. But when Jagmeet Singh started voting in favor of it, that was probably more the newer position, and now it seems that he's trying to go back to the old Layton position. But
Certainly seems like it.
But you voted for it no less than 20 times over 7 years. And now all of a sudden it's a burden on the backs of workers after it's been in place for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
Or close to, maybe 5. Is it 5 now? Because it's been, or no, this is the first raise that we've had under the new one.
Correct.
The first one was 5 years. Yeah. So we're in the 6th year.
Correct.
So we went through the whole first 5 years, and then we decided to continue after 5 years on the same path. And then it isn't until over a year into the new phase of doing this that we've confirmed it, that now you have a problem with it. Sure, Jan.
Yeah,
Sure.
Exactly.
So that's why the timing. Now, again, it's not, had he called a press conference to say that he was taking a different stance from Prime Minister Trudeau and the Liberals on carbon regulatory pricing, I would say for sure it has to do. But given that this was a question that was asked to him in a pretty nondescript press availability, I mean, the amount that he talked before he opened the door for questions in English was about like under 3 minutes. So it's just sort of like, hey, things are over, and we're looking to move together as united, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I could like play that 3 minutes and go stop, because here's the thing that you say that you want to do, but as you're doing the complete opposite thing as you're saying you want, and play that game again. But that question, like I said, because it was a question that came from the press, it wasn't. You can't say that it was a moment that he had planned. But it's just. I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's all suspect.
I don't know. I mean, and again, I couldn't hear the question, so that's why I'm saying I'm just presupposing that the question is that you broke away from this. Will you break away from this as well? And so, well, here's an opportunity. I'm not sure, like if it was the type of question that didn't call for him to bring that up and he decided to slide it in there, then again, I would go, ha. Just, but I wasn't able to hear the question. So I cannot speak fully to timing and whatnot, but he definitely knew that if he was going to say that would bring him some media, definitely, and some questions over the next few days. And in 3 days prior to a by-election vote, you want people talking about you.
Yeah.
So in that way, he's clever. If you're playing the PR game, he's like, let's just put it this way. Over the past few weeks, for the leader of the fourth party, he has managed to generate a lot of press.
And that's what needs to be, people need to remember is he is a fourth party. Sorry, I just see a neighbor. All right. Sorry, with another dog. I'm going to jump out. I'll be back in a bit.
Okay. All right. So we'll see how that works out for him. But response on social media is pretty, Evan Scrimshaw was not impressed. Read his piece on that. Yeah. But of course, Evan Scrimshaw doesn't have much love for Mr. Singh to start with. So that might, for him, it might just be one more thing on the pile. Let's put it that way. The other big news, pivoting away from Mr. Singh, is there's been not a verdict, but a sentencing decision in the trial of the 2 remaining members of the Coots 4, the ones who had not pleaded guilty earlier, who went all the way with their trial. We talked to you a bit about it when closing arguments came around, and we said that sentencing hearing would happen around the end of August. Yeah, that it did. And prosecutors were asking for about 9 years for them. According to Global, 2 men have been sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for their roles in the blockade of the Canada-US border crossing at Coutts, Alberta. They mentioned their names. We will not mention them here. We'll just say when we refer to them, to distinguish them, the one with the pipe bomb, because they were both charged and found guilty of the same crimes, but one of them had the charge of possessing a pipe bomb in addition to. Neither are to serve their full sentences, as Justice David Lebrans gave them nearly 4 years credit for the time they have already spent in custody. They were kept in custody for the entire duration of the investigation and the trial. So, and generally, when you get time served, you get 1 day plus a bonus because you spent time in custody before there being a conviction. Both were convicted of mischief and possession of a firearm dangerous to public peace, while the latter one was also found guilty of possession of a pipe bomb, as I mentioned. A jury found them not guilty on the most serious charge they faced, conspiracy to murder police officers at the blockade. And I believe that the Crown prosecutors are taking that decision up to appeal to try and get a conviction on that. The blockade halted traffic at the border crossing for 2 weeks in 2022 in a protest of COVID-19 rules and vaccine mandates. The men were charged after RCMP found guns, ammunition, and body armor in trailers near the blockade. And for those of you who remember, there is that famous picture of a lot of weaponry on a table and on the floor in front of it, all laid out and displayed. Let's see, what does the thing goes next? Lebrun said, while the men believe their cause just, they can't be allowed to take the law into their own hands. Both used the blockade as a last stand against police, the judge said in his sentencing decision. They knew they were actively participating in something that was illegal, but they didn't care because they thought their cause had been worthy. He added, the law does not allow people to take the law into their own hands. Both men bear a high degree of moral capability. And basically that comes down to no matter how noble or valid you believe your cause to be, that still doesn't give you the right to bring weapons to a protest. That's the too long didn't read version. Both have been in custody since they were arrested in February 2022. Both were given an opportunity to address the court. The one without the pipe bomb declined, but the one with the pipe bomb said that he's a better man as a result of his time in custody. Quote, it has given me time to indulge in God's work. He said, reading from a prepared statement, I will continue to help others. The guy with the pipe bomb was given 6 years for possession for the firearms conviction and a concurrent 6-month sentence for mischief and an additional 6 months for the possession of the pipe bomb. The other was given 6.5 years for the firearms offense and a concurrent 6-month term for mischief. The Crown had argued the 2 men should serve 9-year prison sentences. Quote, the names of the defendants, or now the convicted, believe they were at war. They were prepared to die for their cause. The very real risk is that a firefight would have occurred, Crown Prosecutor Stephen Johnston told the sentencing hearing in August. Quote, it sounds like something we hope doesn't happen in our country, but the reality is it did, and it happened in southern Alberta. Defense lawyers for the 2 had urged the judge to sentence the men to time already served. The 2 other protesters charged with conspiracy to commit murder at the blockade pleaded guilty earlier this year to lesser charges. One was sentenced to 3 years for possession of a restricted firearm in an unauthorized place, and the other was sentenced to 3.5 years for conspiracy to traffic firearms. Those sentences did amount to the time the men had already served, so there was no additional time served for them. Typical reactions from the usual suspects in the places that you would expect them. A lot of people on the right claiming some type of miscarriage of justice of some kind. Interestingly enough, according to the Breakdown Alberta, I believe, well, not according to the Breakdown Alberta, but through the Breakdown Alberta, there is a tweet of Danielle Smith talking about this. I'm guessing that she was asked a question on SNP, the Sean Newman podcast. And he had asked her about this. Your thoughts on Coots and the decision this week? She says, well, look, I mean, I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't see the evidence. It was a jury of their peers, which I think is important because the jury trial is sacrosanct in our country and in our province. And they looked at the evidence, rejected some of the charges, and accepted some of the others. And so that's where I think that's where we find ourselves, because I think we've got to support the process, because I think everybody wants to be able to know that if they're facing any kind of criminal justice issue, that the jury of their peers will be who they go before, and that's what the outcome was. So I don't want to judge what the jury saw, what or why they came to the verdict that they did, but I think people should feel some confidence that the jury trial system is an important part of our process, and that's the outcome then. That was her reply. So described as a bit of a plot twist, because if there was one person you thought would have got on the bandwagon to scream that there was some type of violation of justice, it would be her. Because she has sort of come out in favor of this type of thing before, or if not in favor, not fully against. Let's put it that way. So yeah, this seems to be an interesting decision. It was a jury, and a jury decided, and we need to have faith in our court system, and that's the outcome. So I'm not sure if this is going to be perceived as a throwing under the bus from the David Parker wing, especially as a leadership review is coming up, but not exactly the reaction that I had expected from Danielle Smith on this issue. Now, this is the correct reaction that a premier should have if asked a question about something like this. But I think it would be fair to say that this is not the person from whom we typically expect the standard operating procedure response. Yes, I think that's the kind way to put it. So, but yes, definitely important. Hopefully that settles the matter. I do believe that the lawyers in the case for the defendants did mention that they probably will want to seek an appeal as well. So if that is the case, there will be an appeal from the defense side of this particular sentence and conviction, and then there will be an appeal on the Crown side of the conspiracy to murder police officers charge being met with a not guilty verdict. So probably still some more to come on this, not completely over, but where the two involved here are concerned, unless there is a demand for release pending appeal, which I would assume would be denied, given that they felt that they had to keep them in custody for the entire duration of the time between arrest and sentencing. My guess would be that, and I'm probably not going out on a limb here, that the answer to that would be no. So they are, I would assume, currently still incarcerated and serving the additional time on their sentence that was tacked on to the time they were already credited for serving. All right. And surprisingly, not, like I said, even though some hackles got raised here and there, no lingering effect, because usually if it's something that's really hot as a subject matter, which you would have expected this was, it goes on for days, right? And then it sort of ebbs and flows and then keeps on being brought up. But this did not seem to come with this, from what I can tell so far. Maybe there's some time delay left for that, but there doesn't seem too many people wanting to pick up the ball and run with. There was a, miscarriage of justice of some kind, or that this sentencing is just disproportionate. I mean, the Crown asked for 9. They got 6.5. So there'd be some people willing to say, it's kind of obvious they were guilty of those ones, and just take the the acquittal on the conspiracy charge as the win and celebrate that as their victory. But it seems on the other two, I mean, they were indeed there with the weapons, and it was for an unlawful purpose. So, I mean, you really can't fight that one. So, it'll be interesting to see if this one is sort of like a one and done. People were mad for about a day or two after the verdict, after the sentencing came down, and that's it, or whether or not this becomes manufactured and manipulated into being a symbol of something else and pushed as a trope of some kind within this community. But for now, it seems that some of the usual suspects that you would expect to do that are saying, well, yeah, that's kind of what we expected. Or that it's kind of, yeah, that seems reasonable. Because there isn't as much outcry as one would have expected there. All right. In other news, while we wait for Mr. Grizzly, it's a little bit of news of some Canadians that make us proud. The Canadian women's under-20 soccer team was playing at the under-20 Women's World Cup. And they were in a very, very, very tough pool. Out of all the pools, they were in the toughest, and ended up third in the pool, and advanced as one of the highest ranking, as the highest ranking of the third place teams. But when I say it's close, it was really close. Like the team in second place, they had the exact same number of points, wins, and whatnot, and was it like by a goal differential of 1, that one was in second place and one was in third place. But they did make it into the bracket round, unfortunately, because they were ranked lower. They got a tougher opponent in the first round. They were facing Spain and were eliminated. But good for the team to make it out of pool play and to make it as one of the top 16 teams in the world at this tournament. So congratulations. Also, because I'm a tennis nut, Kids and Cubs, the Davis Cup is on at the moment. That's the big cup big tournament where nations send their best players, and they play a certain number of singles matches and doubles matches, and when it's country against country. And there too, we are in a pool play. Team Canada won it in 2022 for the men, but last year we got surprised by Finland. And one guy in particular, Otto Virtanen, who seemed to have made it his mission to take out Canadians. And same thing with Helio Vara, because often in the tennis season, when the Canadians end up matched up against them for some reason, the Finns seem to be their kryptonite. But this year, in the second round of the second set of matches of the pool play, Canada was playing Finland, and they handled them very well, winning at 3-0. And a couple of days before was Argentina. They also defeated 3-0. So the next matchup was against the UK, but with already 2 wins and being the only team with 2 wins in the pool, it looks pretty solid that Canada will advance to the bracket round at the Davis Cup to try to defend its title. So, defend its title, recapture the title that it had 2 years ago. Denis Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime have had a bit of an up and down year, to be totally honest, but had some highlights for Felix Auger-Aliassime, like, for example, the bronze medal in mixed doubles at the Olympics. nothing to sneeze at in any way, and fourth place in the singles. He played in the bronze medal match, but lost that one, finished fourth. And Denis Shapovalov has gotten to some later rounds in some of the Grand Slams this year, even though his regular season hasn't been all that hot. But against Argentina, Denis Shapovalov was facing a top 35 player in the world and handled him in straight sets, even though Shapovalov is ranked 100th at the moment. So both of them seem to really find their game when they're playing for Canada. For some reason, they tend to. There's something about the maple leaf on the back that does something for them. And it was the same thing with Daniel Nestor, and the same thing with Vasek Pospisil. But Daniel Nestor, I mean, he was a number one doubles player anyway, like outside of like the Davis Cup tournaments and Olympics and stuff like that. But yeah, there's something about I don't know what it is when it comes to like team tennis, but the Canadians, you could almost count on them to like really, really up their game when they get to that type of play. So right now, they are doing this very proud, 2-0, Great Britain to go, and then we go to the brackets, and then it's country against country, winner take all, knockout rounds, which is very, very, very exciting tennis. So I will definitely be cheering.
Nice.
Mr. Grizzly, do you have anything?
No, sorry. It took me longer to get back on the air because there was a domestic squabble happening on the street in front of my building, and I was ready to run down there and intervene, but as it turns out, I don't need to. So I was monitoring it for a few minutes to make sure nothing bad was happening, and it's just a gentleman who seems to be very upset. He's not raised his fist towards the woman he's speaking to, so I think we're going to be okay. I did record a little bit of it. I'm not putting it on the air. I recorded it for the sake of if something is needed in the event that the police are called, there's video evidence of what was going on. But no, it's not for public consumption, even though it's happening in public. We're not sensationalizing things like that, but that's why it took me so long to come back, because I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. We were standing here in the living room. I walked in and I'm like, is somebody on the street shouting in German?
Oh.
Well, it sounded like it. It wasn't, because we couldn't hear it clearly at first. It's the old saying, it's like, tell people you love them, but shout it at them in German so it confuses them. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
What's the German word for ambulance? Remember, in the word for ambulance in multiple languages is a variation of the word ambulance. English, ambulance. French, ambulance. Spanish, ambulancia. Italian, ambulancia. Yeah, it's a variation. And then when you get to the German, what is the German word for ambulance? Krankenwagen.
I have one last thing before we go. Mark Miller, Minister Mark Miller, pointed out something to all of us.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Premier Smith standing requests this year to the federal government for 30,000 permanent residency spots necessary to strengthen the Alberta economy. And I will read this in for you kits and cubs. From the Premier of Alberta, to the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, Office of the Prime Minister, 80 Wellington Street, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A0A2. Dear Prime Minister, I am writing in response to the letter sent by the Honourable Mark Miller, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, informing Alberta of its 2024 allocations under the Provincial Nominee Program. With no prior notification, Minister Miller advised that Alberta will not receive any increases in 2024 allocations to nominate future newcomers and temporary workers to become permanent residents and stay in Alberta. I am very concerned with this decision, given the adverse impacts it would have on our province's economy and ability to help Ukraine evacuees find permanent jobs and futures in Alberta. Over the last year, Alberta has participated in good faith in federal, provincial, territorial consultations on provincial nomination allocations. In September 2023, the Honourable Mohammed Yassin, Alberta's Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism, requested a much-needed increase in Alberta's provincial nominee program allocations, including 14,000 in 2024, 14,700 in 2025, and 15,435 in 2026. The revised allocation of $9,750 for 2024 not only falls below this request, but also falls below the 2024 notional allocation of $10,140 previously provided to Alberta by the federal government. And for those who don't know what that is, the notional allocation is like sort of like the number that they determine that you need to maintain stability.
Right.
Okay. So we have a situation here where the Minister of Immigration is telling Alberta that they will get 9,750, which is lower than the notional 10,140 for 2024. But Danielle Smith is turning around saying, but that's 14,000 less than we need. So she's asking for more than double the allocation. Just so you're doing the math here. Alberta's labor market continues to show strength. In February 2024, employment rose to 2.5 million, up from 17,400 month over month, which is a 4.1% increase year over year. But Canada's broken.
Yes.
Full-time jobs also jumped to 2,070,699. But the federal government is trying to kill Alberta jobs. While Alberta accounts for just under 12% of Canada's population, our province leads the nation in net employment growth, with 42.8% of the country's employment gains, despite everything Trudeau is doing to us.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Alberta continues to be the economic engine of Canada and will experience ongoing labor market challenges, with labor shortages forecasted in critical sectors such as construction, technology, healthcare, and education. Immigration is critical to addressing these labor challenges, and Alberta's provincial nominee program is best placed to address our unique immigration and economic goals. The decision on Alberta's 2024 allocations represents a reversal of previous commitments by the federal government and negatively impacts Alberta's ability to grow and diversify its economy. In light of Alberta's unique labor challenges, I am requesting that your government immediately increase Alberta's provincial nomination program allocation to $20,000 annually in 2024, 2025, and 2026. This would support our efforts to address critical labor shortages and supports and collaborative federal-provincial territorial relationships that respects Alberta's roles in addressing its regional immigration needs. Since Alberta's program is heavily focused on temporary residents, the increase will support the transition of this group to permanent residency. Additionally, Alberta is welcoming a substantive number of Ukrainian evacuees, with over 57,000 evacuees currently in Alberta. It is anticipated that upwards of 93% of Ukrainian evacuees will stay in Alberta and seek permanent residency. This represents approximately 24,000 families that may apply to our provincial nominee program. Overall, there is a lack of opportunity for these temporary residents to gain permanent residency and continue to live and work in Alberta. While the federal government has provided a temporary pathway for Ukrainian nationals with family members in Canada, more needs to be done, as many Ukrainian evacuees are not eligible for existing federal permanent residency streams. I would agree. The federal government could address this issue either through new federal pathways for Ukrainian evacuees or through increased allocations to Alberta's provincial nominee program. Under the provincial nominee program, Alberta requests a further 10,000 allocations for Ukrainian evacuees, in addition to the 20,000 the province is already seeking for economic needs. So again, he's giving 9,740, and she wants 30,000. Now, 10,000 are already there.
Yes.
All right.
But don't they keep crying about how too
we're
many?
Yes, that's where we're going. Let me finish the letter. The recent unilateral notification by the federal government that our province will not receive any increases in our 2024 allocation underscores the importance of Alberta's continuing to advocate for greater involvement in decisions regarding immigration policy and planning, including the selection and settlement of immigrants similar to that available in Quebec. Should the federal government continue to not be responsive to our requests, Alberta will assist areas where we can push for a larger role in immigration and settlement services to better serve our province's interests. This is clearly consistent with Section 95 of the Constitution, which states, quote, "In each province, the legislature may make laws in relation to, immigration in the province. Thank you for your prompt attention to these concerns and requests. I urge you to reverse this short-sighted decision and meaningfully consider Alberta's unique challenges. Sincerely, Daniel Smith, Premier of Alberta, C.C. Mohammed Yassin, Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism for Alberta, and Mark Miller, Minister of Immigration for Refugees and Citizenship. And you will notice that at the end of this message, she throws in an insult.
Of course.
Because they just can't help themselves. It was a solid letter up until then, but throws in an insult. Now, Mr. Grizzly, again, please, your first impression.
What the hell? Excuse me, please. So, I'm very confused. I'm incredibly confused by this. Let me see if I get this correct. We have no place to house people. There's no housing. Stop the immigration. We need more immigrants to keep our economy rolling, but we don't have any place to house them. And it's all a federal government Wait a minute. Housing is a provincial responsibility initiated at the municipal level, funded by the province. Okay, so build some houses. We need more migrants so we can fill these jobs. I thought you said you didn't want any more. I'm very confused at all of this. So Alberta is doing great, but sucking at the same time. Make it make sense. How can you be, look, I understand you can hold two different thoughts at the same time. I understand how you can be pro-choice and anti-abortion. That is sensible. But you can't say, no more immigrants, we don't have any place to house them, you need to build some housing.
We need immigrants to build the houses.
And it's your responsibility to build them, not the federal government. The federal government is doing it now because the provincial government has failed. So, oh my God. Stop electing stupid people, please.
And then on the other side, Albertans hate the immigrants. That's why you can't find a place to live that's affordable.
Stop
hey, federal government, why are you sending us only 9,740? We need 30 or 20. What they say to the people, and then what they write in letters begging the federal government to do. They're asking Trudeau to do this. And then they go to a mic and they say, you cannot find a daycare space, or you cannot find a place to live in, or you cannot do, because Trudeau lets in all those damn immigrants.
That we insist we need desperately to fill positions and jobs.
Because the second we say, okay, we'll cut them. Oh my God, how are we going to fund our colleges and universities? What are we going to do about our labor? Well, then pick a goddamn lane.
Pick a lane. Pick a lane.
We need the people, and it comes with an uptick in price. And this is an expected cost for having to bring in so many people quickly. And we as a government, because as a provincial government, we do have access to purse strings and money, we will create a program to help you. There is no reason for which any provincial government can't offer people a rent increase deduction on their provincial income tax or a credit of something, right? They have money.
Mm-hmm.
They could be offering relief. They're asking the federal government to do this. They know that that will increase demand, and right now supply is low, and that will raise costs for everyone. Give someone a relief check. But we need to do this. That is an option. No. Like this. They beg the federal government for it. They get it. Then they punch the federal government in the face for having given it to them. And then they tell the people that are suffering the unintended negative consequences for having to do something that absolutely needs to be done, that it's the fault of the federal government and the people that don't look like them. Vote for me.
Meanwhile, in Ontario, I have to put this on the screen because there's a bigger picture here at play. This is just disturbing. 2018, Doug Ford government stops enforcing credentials in skilled trades. That is ridiculous. 2023, Ford government intends to stop mandatory coroner's inquest on construction site deaths. 24, Stephen Lecce and David Piccini announced grade 11 and 12 students can spend most of their time in co-op courses. Let me just scroll down the page here so you could see my response to this after this one. From Concerned Citizen, Ford is building his army of worker bots, few skills. They will be forced into low-paying jobs with no benefits. If they die on the job, there's a steady pipeline of replacements coming up behind. No unions, of course, just like his mob bosses want. This is an accident waiting to happen. These kids are going to get taken advantage of or injured or die. It's important to have transparency. What's to hide? And my take on this is co-op student equals free child labor for his developer friends, paid via the public purse on borrowed money. So we've got Daniel Smith in Alberta screaming for more immigrants, even though they're at the same time saying we don't have room. And then we have Doug Ford doing the same thing, by the way, and saying, we're trying to build homes. The province of Ontario isn't building a damn thing. Doug Ford is not building a damn thing. His private developer wealthy buddies are. And now he has a pipeline of free child labor to help out on those construction sites, which is, of course, what his developer buddies love, because free labor means more profit. This is the upside down times, people. This is happening in real time, in our lifetime, in 2024. We are turning the clock back, exactly, as Saucy Sea Witch says. Are we going back to the industrial age? Certainly seems like it. You do realize that these co-op child laborers have no union. They have no protections. And now if they die on the job site, there's no mandatory inquest by the coroner.
That one blows my mind.
Doug Ford's meat grinder economy, where you literally will be ground to meat.
That one literally blows my mind.
And this is what has happened. Look, it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. They want Gilead, and they're slowly doing it incrementally, little by little, step by step. And this is not good. And not enough people are paying attention to this because it's done over in this department, over in that department, over there, over here, over there. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, tattoos can't be visible in the workplace because it sets a precedent. So ladies, you need to, if you have sleeves or any, you need to cover up. Oh, you have tattoos on your hands? You have to wear gloves in the workplace. How soon before we're Afghanistan? How soon? If we let this go, it will happen. Because remember, and I've shown the photos before of Afghanistan in the 70s, ladies walking about in miniskirts, going to parties, enjoying and living their lives. And now they're completely covered head to toe. Not even the flesh on their hands is allowed to show. You think it can't happen here?
In the recent news reports we just showed is like even how much when they're allowed to speak.
Correct. You think that can't happen here? I'm telling you, it can and it will if we don't pay attention. Do you think in 1929, somebody living in Germany envisioned the Holocaust? Do you actually believe somebody thought that would be a real thing? We know it happened. The proof is there. Auschwitz is a memorial to people whose lives were taken from them in an industrial fashion, by the way. If you had to ask somebody in 1929 Germany if they thought that was possible, they said, oh, that would never happen. It's done incrementally until they get enough power and enough control to when they can do exactly what they want. And if you think it can't happen here, you are naive. Because they want voter apathy. How did Doug Ford get a majority? 43% of the population of Ontario came out to the last vote. He got, 13% of the vote? And that gave him a majority with 13%.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you think it can't happen here, I'm telling you it can and it will if you do not get out and fight for our democracy. Democracy is something you do, and you have to do it every damn day in every damn way. And I know I sound alarmist and I sound hyperbolic, but the thing is, I'm not. I'm not hyperbolic. Alarmist? Sure. I'm ringing the alarm bell. This can and will happen here if we get lackadaisical and apathetic.
And I think that's a good note to end this episode on, Mr. Grizzly. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And we want you to tell your peeps and poops all about us. So please do so. And we thank you very much when you do. If you would like to not miss an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl. She's fine, she's fabulous, and she sponsored our pod page. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. Or if you scan that QR code right there, that'll bring you right to the page. And if you click on subscribe, we come directly to you. No fuss, no muss. Kind of fancy. And if you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you to like, share, and subscribe. Flick them. Make like Kit Cassie. Make like Kit Cassie's cowboy. Get yourself some happy. It's really easy to do. It's a lot of fun. And if you'd like to help us in other ways, then the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And there is where you will find our tip jar. So if you like the product that we produce and you would like to encourage us to do more, well, we definitely incur some costs to bring it to you. And any help that you could provide us definitely makes the load a little lighter to bear. So if you have some loonies or toonies weighing you down and you think that we are worthy of them, please go to our coffee page and make a little donation. Buy us a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate. Yum, 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 yum. And let us, a little pat on the head and say, good grizzly, good beaver. And if you're not able to contribute financially, that is quite all right, because the gift of your attention and participation is the thing that matters most to us. Yes, it is. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. If ugly, please be gentle. We're sensitive creatures.
Yeah. Look, hate watch us if you want, but we don't want hatefulness in the
Yes.
commentary.
Yes. You could also write to us via our Twitter page @TrueEager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, or leave us a comment right here if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We do try to read everything.
We do.
Thank you so much for everything and for all the wonderful compliments. And I have to say, in particular, Kit T. Wigmore, you are really, 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 really good for my ego, for our ego. You are such a source of kindness and positivity and good encouragement and pointing out the really nice things that we do that resonate with you. Thank you. Thank you. We see them, we see you, and we appreciate they're like little jolts of happiness throughout the show for us. So thank you. It's very kind of you. Because democracy is something that you do. By-elections coming up on the 16th, Elmwood, Transcona, and La Salle-Ville-la-Mare, Verdun on the 19th in the Bay of Quinte area if you're in Ontario for the provincial legislature. And of course, nominations close on September 19th for Ward 15 in Toronto. And yeah, that Russia thing is still going on. So please write some letters about that to your MPPs, your MPs, I should say, and Kits and Cubs. Mr. Grizzly and I were able to do that project that I had proposed. So we did go to the Department of Justice website, found the indictment, and read it. And then we have a couple of comments, a bit of commentary after with some news story developments related to it as well. And that will be coming out, I believe, on Saturday.
Yes, tomorrow at 9 a.m. I will be debuting. It's pre-recorded, and you will see it will say previously recorded when you were watching it. But yes, 9 a.m. tomorrow, that will debut.
So everybody, you're going to get some Weekend Beaver. Hi.
I don't even know what to say for this.
Waka, 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 waka.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Fozzie Bear. Waka, waka.
Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for our Kits and Cubs today?
The only thing I can leave anybody with is democracy is something you do. Please participate in it, because ours is on the edge of a razor. We are on the edge of a razor right now, and honest to goodness, if we do not get out there and do something about it, we will lose it. Oh, I got a spill there. So please share this program with everybody on your socials, on your follows. Email a link to the show. We need to get more Canadians knowledgeable of the fact that our democracy is in a perilous situation right now. We have bad actors who would do us harm. And right now, it looks like the leader of the new Democratic Party is one of them. I said it looks like it. I didn't say he was. I want to preface it with that, but it looks like it because he's parroting the talking points of the Conservative Party leader, and that is not good. And he talks about how Ed Broadbent is his mentor. Ed is spinning in his grave right now.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock and stick around, kids. We have. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. Before you have your Easter egg, Mr. Grizzly, I just wanted to mention, Cassie mentioned in the chat with regard to the Coots thing. Don't forget the Coots frontman Marco Hugenboss is now trying to oust Danielle Smith as premier. So that's why I was wondering if that acceptance of the verdict was a bit of throwing under the bus.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Mr. Grizzly.
So I need to share this with you because this is just another example of abuse. And this is an abuser who is abusing us all and does it daily and never gets called out. So I'm going to put this on the screen. It's a tweet from Pierre Poilievre. And in his tweet, he says, "Sellout Jagmeet Singh, you voted for the carbon tax 24 times. You've supported Trudeau every step of the way. No one believes you've changed your mind." Didn't he just...
Valid point.
It's a valid point. It is a valid point. But here's where the problem is. He calls him Sellout Singh and says, blah, 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 blah. Now I want you to vote with me in non-confidence to fall the government. So this picture attached below is a picture of Justin Trudeau on a phone. And it says, "Jagmeet, you voted for the carbon tax 24 times. What do you mean you don't support it now?" And it's a picture of Jagmeet Singh on the phone. "Yes, Justin, but I need to say I don't to win by-elections." Yeah. And that is coming from Pierre Poilievre.
Now, you see, if Pierre Poilievre didn't have all that history of dickish schmarminess, and this came out on its own independently, this would be a good play.
Mm-hmm.
But we know the place from inside where this comes.
Oh, and
you got to always consider the source.
I got something else for you. Wait till you see this. Oh, God. This just came across my feed. I was about to sign off. This just came across. Okay. Irony is dead and self-awareness is not a thing. So this person, oh my God, I cannot believe this. This person has this. Let me show you this first, and then we'll go back and I'll show you the rest. So this person has this as their avatar.
Okay.
On the Twitter. Okay. And this is a person who is at the Freedom Convoy, the occupation of Ottawa, being led away in handcuffs while wearing the Canadian flag like a cape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is what this person has to say about Toronto police enforce the law against Palestinian protesters. So you're suddenly against freedom of speech? Freedom of speech does not include blocking traffic, vandalizing property, harassing people in restaurants, and stopping people from using a bank. Irony is dead. Dead. The absolute brain rot of a Freedom Convoy supporter saying this without a hint of irony or self-awareness.
I'm just sipping my tea.
See, when they do it, it's okay, but when somebody else does it and they don't agree with it, then it's a problem.
So lemony. That's just, oh my God. Yeah, exactly, Kitalaine. Face palm.
Yeah.
And with that, jazz hands.
What else you gonna do? I mean, my goodness.
Oh my God.
Alrighty. I'll see you.
Have a beaverific weekend, everyone.